Chapter 947. The direction of the source was blurry and covered by layers of the power of time. Even if one really returned through time, the general outline couldn't be seen clearly. Time was time. There was no way to change what happened in the past. It was impossible to reverse it, although one could borrow the power of time to move it and see the truth of what happened in the past. But there were some things that couldn't be changed by force. They couldn't even be seen through. For example, the prehistoric Big Brother wanted to see the past clearly and dig out Su Yan's past experiences. That was the direction of the blurry and majestic source. It was as if thousands of eras were separated by the sea of time that made one despair. It was full of a soul-stirring pressure. What is this? Su Yan was scared. Even someone as powerful as Su Yan, who had experienced many bloody storms and possessed an unrivaled spirit and willpower among the younger generation. But in this space-time, under the pressure of the Supreme Source, it was as if he was facing the heavens. The atmosphere was enough to make one despair. It was as if the ancient history of an era was pressing down. Who could contend against it? Roar! A wild roar exploded just like that. In Su Yan's frightened eyes, he saw the prehistoric Big Brother erupt. He was really like a demon god who ruled the world. His hair danced in the wind and the divine light he released illuminated the past, present, and future. It was as if he was going to pierce through everything. Moreover, he brandished his fist. The aura was terrifying beyond compare. This fist was really like the descent of 10,000 worlds. That kind of indescribable power seemed to blast to the end of time and hammer into an indescribable world. Boom! Shockwaves were released here, shaking heaven and earth. The energy waves swept up, drowning out space-time and covering everything. It was boundless and no end could be seen. It was hard to imagine how powerful the shockwaves were. The stars in the sky were annihilated on their own. This fist was unstoppable. It pierced through the order of the universe and shattered the long river of time. This was as if a supreme expert was standing in the long river of time. He erupted with the most unrivaled fist aura. Separated by the vast years and time, boundless and majestic waves rippled out the moment he punched. What kind of fist technique was this? It could be said to be the symbol of invincibility. It was difficult to describe. Kill! He roared in succession. His fist aura was unmatched as he poured out in full force. That supreme divine might suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earth. The great Tao of the universe trembled under his feet. What else in this world could stop him? He could really destroy everything. Boom, boom, boom. In this world that was filled with loud noises, the prehistoric Big Brother punched out one punch after another, displaying a shocking foundation. The direction of the source of the bombardment showed signs of collapsing amidst the blur, as if it had really blasted into another space-time, revealing the truth within. "I can't take it anymore," Su Yan screamed. He felt that the world was about to collapse, and he was about to be destroyed along with it. Was it because of the battle or the pressure of the universe? Su Yan was speechless. In short, every time Big Brother Prehistoric threw a punch, it would cause the universe to resonate. The boundless light of order shone, wanting to obliterate him completely. In the end, he was still too weak to see what would happen next. The blurry world continued to tremble. The prehistoric Big Brother's battle was still ongoing. He did not know how many times he had blasted away the source, but in the end, he had attracted an even more magnificent and vast cosmic killing force. 1,000,000,000,000 bolts of lightning struck down, drowning everything and shattering the heavens. It was enough to bury all the heaven-defying cultivators. Some things couldn't be touched. Big Brother Prehistoric was now going against the heavens, going against the operating rules of the universe. In the end, he attracted a terrifying group of lightning, cutting off his path forward. Even time was shattered by the impact. When Big Brother Prehistoric opened and closed his eyes, they were sharper than a heavenly blade. It was as if he was separated from his destination by an epoch of history. With his strength, he could not continue to penetrate the past. Everything in front of him was like a picture scroll that began to shatter. But vaguely, Big Brother Prehistoric caught some scenes that made his body tremble slightly. A pair of withered eyes blossomed with an overflowing radiance. From this moment onwards, he stopped his crazy actions. The world regained its tranquility. Everything in the private room was normal. The previous experience was like a dream that began to collapse. Su Yan was still sitting cross-legged on the ground. Under the state of the body nurturing technique, wisps of white mist were faintly discernible in his body. One had to admit that the body nurturing technique was powerful. It could see the other substances hidden in Su Yan's body. As Big Brother Prehistoric waved his hand, the wisps of white mist seemed to disappear into Su Yan's body. They seemed to have fused together with his body. Big Brother, who am I? Su Yan's eyes suddenly opened. He was silent for a long time as he asked. He really wanted to know what Big Brother Prehistoric had seen. He felt that there should be some other reasons that made him have no choice but to take action to see Su Yan's origins. He was tall and his hair was messy. His aura was ancient and his bronze skin emitted a mysterious radiance. Big Brother Prehistoric was silent for a moment. He was shaking his head. This made Su Yan's heart heavy to the extreme. Even he couldn't see through it. Su Yan could only smile bitterly. Could it be that his origins were so ancient that it was difficult to trace back? Could it be that he was like the creatures hidden in the universe, sealed away from one epoch after another? The burial region race, the remnant race of the celestial court. Su Yan murmured. Perhaps only the old leader knew a little about his origins. Back then, he had just gained sentience and was born in the burial region race. He hadn't lived there for long before the burial region race met with a calamity. From then on, Su Yan appeared in the later progenitor and grew up on Earth. Since he couldn't get an answer, Su Yan didn't want to think about it anymore. Thinking too much would only cause trouble. At this time, he was silent in the cultivation of the body nurturing technique. When he really entered the body nurturing technique and sealed the lifeline of his body, Su Yan really felt that he had become immortal. However, his primordial spirit and great Tao divine power were still there. It was just that he had sealed his body. In this special domain, Su Yan clenched his fist. He realized that the body nurturing technique was too powerful. In the process of sealing himself, Su Yan's body automatically absorbed the essence of heaven and earth to nourish his body. It was as if he was nurturing his life. However, Su Yan discovered that in the process of nurturing his body, there were some flaws in his body. This was something that Su Yan had never discovered before. But now, he easily grasped it. This wasn't a flaw in Su Yan's cultivation, but a flaw that originated from his physique. His emotions surged. This was a flaw that he had always wanted to fix. Su Yan suddenly had an idea. He thought to himself, could it be that I'm really a prehistoric person? Because of the changes in the universe's environment, my physique can't be restored? This speculation was very likely. Big Brother, is there any hope of restoring the flaws in my body? Su Yan looked at the tall man with anticipation. He hoped that he could get the right answer from him. The prehistoric Big Brother directly responded. He waved his palm again and pointed his finger. A condensed Great Tao diagram gushed out from his fingertip. This Tao diagram spread out in the air. The moment it was released, it was incomparably grand and majestic. A sea of stars appeared within it. It seemed to bear the weight of the heavens and the sea of stars of the universe. It encompassed the vast world and carried with it the power to destroy the world. It directly imprinted itself into Su Yan's forehead, emitting waves of unparalleled mysteries. Su Yan's forehead really seemed to have a sea of stars appear. But it quickly returned to normal. Without a doubt, this was the prehistoric Big Brother's supreme method. He had forcefully hidden the inheritance in Su Yan's sea of consciousness. Once he was strong enough, he would be able to receive the inheritance. The second level. This body-nurturing technique is truly tyrannical. Su Yan was excited. This was the second level of the body-nurturing technique. But it was even more profound. It wasn't a secret technique chapter that Su Yan could cultivate right now. The flaws in my physique can be restored with the body-nurturing technique. Su Yan laughed in his heart. When the time was right, he would comprehend the second body-nurturing technique Tao diagram. Then, he would definitely obtain the answer. Boom. But what shocked Su Yan was that another Tao diagram was struck out by the prehistoric Big Brother. This Tao diagram was turbulent as if the heavens were overturning. It flashed with resplendent traces. It was as if the universe was engraved within it. It emitted a blurry light of order. The moment it was fixed in space, Su Yan felt as if the world was about to be destroyed. Su Yan instantly caught it. There was a kind of power in the universe that was sinking. At this moment, the majestic Great Tao City, known as the #1 city in the world, seemed to have received a shock. It suddenly became 10,000 times more terrifying. What's going on? The important figures in the city were alarmed. The Great Tao City was temporarily recovering. Vaguely, millions of heavenly dragons of the Great Tao appeared in the sky, emitting an immeasurable Great Tao foundation. They were about to meet the attack. At this moment, this city was like a Great Tao immortal city that was being unsealed. It towered between heaven and earth, emitting millions of strands of light. It was extremely shocking. This was definitely a major event. The Great Tao City was recovering to meet a powerful enemy. Even the various powerful figures from the Tao Temple, who were overseeing the Great Tao City, turned pale. The Great Tao City was operating on its own in a state where no one was recovering. What major event had happened? However, the Great Tao City only recovered for a moment before it returned to calm. The city was completely in an uproar. The expressions of the powerful figures of the older generation changed. What had happened before? Why did the Great Tao City recover on its own? If Su Yan knew that the third scripture diagram of the body-nurturing technique evolved by his big brother had caused the Great Tao City to recover on its own and resist the pressure of the universe, he would probably be shocked. In fact, he had encountered it before. He had encountered it in the Milky Way. It was because of the black paper that he had obtained by chance that caused the universe to be annihilated. It was obvious that the body-nurturing technique evolved by his big brother had also caused the origin of the universe to tremble. In the panic-stricken Great Tao City, only a powerful figure from the Tao Temple who was overseeing the city had an uncertain expression. He had caught the killing intent of the universe's origin. Although it was extremely fast and restrained, he still caught it. Who is doing such a heaven-defying thing? The powerful figure speculated with a heavy heart. He activated his heaven's eye and paid attention to every movement in the Great Tao City. He didn't dare to relax for a moment. This was the Great Tao City. Once there was a change, even a powerful figure would find it hard to bear the consequences. Chapter 948. Su Yan had already grasped the first chapter of the body-nurturing art. The other 2 chapters were imprinted in Su Yan's mind. When the time was right, he would obtain these 2 chapters and study them. Su Yan felt that the 3rd chapter was a little scary. How could the prehistoric Big Brother's teachings be a simple inheritance of a secret technique? Su Yan guessed that the reason why the prehistoric Big Brother left the last 2 chapters to him was because of his own origins. He felt that the possibility was very high. Because of this matter, his relationship with the prehistoric Big Brother had improved. What level of secret technique does the body-nurturing art belong to? It's not a problem that it's a prehistoric inheritance. Could it be a peerless secret technique created by Big Brother himself? Su Yan muttered in his heart. Even if it was the strongest secret technique created by a supreme being, it would still be extremely powerful. Especially for someone at the level of the prehistoric Big Brother, The secret technique he created would definitely be at the peak of perfection. The body-nurturing art was not only a secret technique to nourish the human body, but also a secret technique to nourish one's life. It could even be understood as a secret technique to extend one's lifespan. If the body-nurturing art were to spread, it would definitely cause a terrifying storm of blood. Experts would hide in famous mountains and rivers and use the body-nurturing art to absorb the origin of the universe, the source of life. They would definitely be able to obtain a long lifespan. After all, they wouldn't need to use their body's divine strength. This was a type of hibernation. Hibernating for a long time could allow one to obtain a long lifespan. However, Su Yan had only grasped the first chapter. The remaining 2 chapters would definitely be secret techniques among secret techniques. Su Yan was stunned. This was because the prehistoric Big Brother had passed on a series of information to Su Yan. After studying it, he was enlightened. There were all kinds of heavenly treasures in the information, which would be helpful to the cultivation of the body-nurturing art. The body-nurturing art was a unique secret technique that gathered the origin of heaven and earth. However, in Su Yan's situation, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to obtain an extremely strong cultivation environment. Thus, in the process of accumulation, with the help of these heavenly treasures, the effects would naturally be stronger. The body-nourishing technique gathered the essence of the heavens and earth to nourish one's body. With the help of the mystical items of the heavens and earth, the effect would naturally be even stronger. However, the information passed to Su Yan by Big Brother Prehistoric recorded all kinds of strange substances, many of which Su Yan had never heard of before. They must be extremely precious. Big Brother, can I teach this secret technique to others? Su Yan hesitated for a moment. He thickened his face and asked. This thing was definitely related to the Buried Regions race, but the inheritance was given to him by his Big Brother Prehistoric, so he had to get his approval first. The prehistoric Big Brother nodded calmly, causing Su Yan to be overjoyed. Could it be that this secret technique was not particularly valuable to the prehistoric Big Brother? I wonder when the auction will start. I should go out and take a look. Su Yan got up and left the private room. The owner of the restaurant was waiting outside the door. Seeing Su Yan come out, the fat owner hurriedly went up to greet him. His attitude was very warm, and he asked about his well-being. However, when he took out the bill, Su Yan's face almost turned black. Although he was rich and knew that he had eaten and drunk for 3 days and 3 nights and had made a lot of money, he didn't expect it to be so expensive. Those precious delicacies didn't cost much. The most expensive thing was the wine they drank. Those 10,000-year-old wines easily cost more than 100 jin of primal chaos material. They had even drunk over 100 jars of this restaurant's most precious wine. These fine wines had been sealed for more than 30,000 years and were brewed from rare treasured herbs. Just the precipitation time alone was enough. Ordinary divine kings wouldn't be willing to treat guests to such fine wines. From this, one could see how precious these old wines were. Su Yan smiled bitterly. They had consumed more than 6,300 jin of primal chaos material. This was a huge amount of wealth. Ordinary divine kings wouldn't be able to take out such a sum. Even a peak divine king would feel the pinch. However, they had eaten more than 6,000 jin of primal chaos material in 3 days and 3 nights. Esteemed guest, 6,000 jin of primal chaos material is enough. Also, these jars of aged wine are for you to enjoy. The fat owner chuckled. This was wealth that they couldn't earn even in 100 years. Su Yan wanted to run away and eat a free meal. However, Big Brother Prehistoric was here. Su Yan couldn't embarrass him. He threw out 6,000 jin of primal chaos material boldly and said that he would come back for a meal later. That's great. When the time comes, I'll definitely prepare even better wine to entertain you. The fat owner's face trembled. He was extremely excited. Su Yan had made up his mind not to come. As the fat shop owner sent him off warmly, just as Su Yan was about to step out of the restaurant, the shop owner smiled and said, "Take care, esteemed guest. Also, the great Tao City is about to host a heavyweight auction. It is said that the scale is close to a super auction. This is an auction that is hard to come by. It is said that in this auction, there will be a peerless godly wine that has been sealed for an entire universe era. This kind of fine wine was fatally attractive to drunkards. Normally, just the materials used to forge wine jars that were sealed for an epoch were worth an astonishing amount of wealth. Moreover, the herbs used to brew this kind of fine wine were also quite astonishing. Using sacred herbs to brew wine wasn't just a legend. This kind of fine wine was qualified to be brewed with sacred herbs. Damn, how can I still drink wine that's over 100,000 years old? Su Yan's face darkened. This kind of thing required a huge amount of wealth to obtain. He asked the shop owner for the way to the auction house, and then went with the prehistoric big brother to the auction house. The auction was hosted by the Tao Palace, and the destination was the Core Street. This was a street frequented by major figures in the universe. Even supreme experts would sometimes encounter it. The Core Street seemed to be connected one after another. Giant golden dragons soared into the sky, seething with auspicious clouds and blooming with divine radiance. The huge Core Street was also the place where dragon veins gathered. The essence of heaven and earth was extremely vigorous. On this street there were dozens of shops. Behind each shop stood a pinnacle force. The items being traded here were enough to make ordinary cultivators despair. The prices were ridiculously high. Of course, there were countless rare treasures being traded in the shops. Every shop was grand and majestic. The aura of nobility that greeted them made even great Tao realm cultivators not dare to enter. Even heavenly gods felt embarrassed to be short of money. Su Yan arrived here and looked at the shops. This was the place where the shops of the top forces in the universe gathered. This made Su Yan feel a little shocked, especially the location of the auction, the Great Tao Auction House. It was hard to count the number of super auctions that were held here. Even the supreme experts' sacred weapons that were auctioned in the Great Tao Auction House were extremely hard to count. Even complete divine medicines had been auctioned in the Great Tao Auction House. There had been supreme experts who spent a lot of money here, and there were also pinnacle forces who spent a huge amount of money here. Su Yan's throat moved. When could he open a shop here or occupy this place? That would be amazing. At the entrance of the Great Tao Auction House, there were already many powerhouses of the universe gathered here. Cultivators below the God realm were not qualified to enter this kind of auction unless they were led by an elder of the family. It was said that this auction house originally needed some time to prepare. After all, the Great Tao Auction House almost only held super auctions. However, because of the appearance of the heavenly deity tree, the auction was opened in advance. Su Yan looked at the entrance. There was a group of powerful guards guarding here. There were even powerhouses like the Divine King. There were already batches of cultivators stepping into the entrance. It seemed that the auction was about to start. Su Yan had some thoughts in his mind. He prepared to go in first. At the entrance of the Great Tao Auction House there was a huge Great Tao stage. Every cultivator who entered and exited had to pass through the Great Tao stage. When Su Yan stepped onto the Great Tao stage, he clearly felt that the Great Tao stage surged with a strange power and surged into Su Yan's physical body. This was the Great Tao stage that tested one's strength. Those who were not strong enough would be kicked out directly. The body-nurturing technique is indeed terrifying. Su Yan was moved. The energy of the Great Tao stage did not trigger the power of Su Yan's physical body. There was no doubt that he had sealed his physical body and blinded the senses of the Great Tao stage. Su Yan directly vibrated the Great Tao divine power in his body. Although he was only at the peak of the 8th heaven of the God realm, the Great Tao divine power in Su Yan's body was so exuberant that ordinary heavenly God realm powerhouses could not compare. The exuberant energy gushed out and immediately passed through the great Tao stage's test. "Look!" Exclamations came from all around. Su Yan's eyes instantly scanned the surroundings. He saw the great Tao stage surging with a driving force. When it hit the body of the prehistoric Big Brother, his tall and majestic bronze-colored body was like a giant pillar that stood tall in the starry sky of the universe. How could the driving force of the great Tao stage move the prehistoric Big Brother? He walked on the great Tao stage, step by step, as steady as Mount Tai. Could it be a mighty powerhouse? The divine kings of the Great Path Temple lost their composure. The Great Path platform was something that had been created by the Mighty Ones, but this Mighty One simply ignored it and followed Su Yan as if he was strolling in his own backyard. The atmosphere here instantly became extremely tense. The powerhouses of the Tao Temple all had the posture of facing a great enemy. But when they came back to their senses, Su Yan and the prehistoric Big Brother had already entered the great Tao auction house. The divine king of the Tao Temple, who was guarding the place, disappeared instantly. After all, if a mighty powerhouse came, the Tao Temple would send powerhouses to greet them. Of course, the powerhouses of the Tao Temple didn't think that the mysterious mighty powerhouse was here to cause trouble. In the past, at least 2 or 3 mighty powerhouses had come to participate in the auction. After a long time, no one dared to cause trouble here. Inside the great Tao auction house, what came into view was endless seat. At this moment, large groups of cultivators were looking for seat. Generally speaking, in the great Tao auction house, only powerhouses like the Divine King had their own private rooms. Su Yan wasn't in a hurry to find a seat. He looked around and went to the treasure room with the prehistoric Big Brother. As soon as they left, the Divine King of the Tao Temple hurried over. He looked left and right, looking for traces of the prehistoric Big Brother. The Tao Temple would naturally send people to receive such deities who ignored the great Tao stage. They went to the treasure room? After asking the servant next to him, the King Kongpa was a little surprised. Was the mighty powerhouse going to take out a treasure to auction? The King Kongpa hurried over. With such honorable guests coming to the great Tao auction house, he was really worried that some insensible deacons would offend them. There were no less than 100 treasure rooms in the great Tao auction house. Although the auction was about to start, many powerhouses took out treasures and wanted to put them up for auction. Of course, ordinary treasures wouldn't be put on the stage at all. Su Yan also wanted to take out some treasures to auction. Although he had a lot of wealth, he knew very well that rare treasures would definitely be taken out in an auction of this scale. If there was really something that he liked, Su Yan would definitely go all out. Having cultivated to this level, no amount of wealth could compare to useful treasures. Su Yan didn't want to go back empty-handed in this auction. Chapter 949. There are a lot of people appraising treasures. Let's wait. Su Yan was not in a hurry and waited patiently. There was still half a day before the auction started. He noticed that many cultivators were walking out of the appraisal room. Most of them were dejected. It was obvious that the treasures they brought out were not qualified at all. Damn it! Did you see it correctly? Some cultivators who were full of anticipation walked out while cursing. They thought that the treasures they brought out could be sold for a good price at the auction house. Who knew that the appraiser in the appraisal room would directly chase them out? This made them feel extremely unbalanced. The Grand Avenue Auction House had always held auctions of extremely high standard. Although the number of items traded in each auction was no less than tens of thousands of treasures, every single one of them was a treasure among treasures. There were also many limited grade treasures that simply couldn't be brought to the table. At this moment, King Kongpa walked towards Su Yan. Su Yan also saw King Kongpa. He was no exception. As the prehistoric Big Brother, even if a mighty figure came, Su Yan would not be an exception. "Haha, fellow Taoist, are you here to appraise treasures?" King Kongpa laughed loudly from afar. He was extremely enthusiastic. Su Yan also walked over to greet him. He replied, "That's right. I have some treasures that I want to bring out for auction. That's why I came to the appraisal room." "Good, good, good." King Kampa's face was full of enthusiasm. Then, his expression became serious. He bowed to the prehistoric big brother and said, "Senior, I also have some skills in appraising treasures. There are many fellow Taoists who are appraising treasures now. You can come with me to other places to appraise treasures." At the same time, King Kampa observed the prehistoric big brother to see if he could recognize his origins. It was just that under the observation of a divine king powerhouse, the prehistoric big brother was still ordinary and mediocre. But if one really looked at him from a deeper level, the divine king would be overwhelmed with shock. It was like an ant looking up at an azure dragon, making him feel terrified. "He's definitely a mighty expert." King Kampa sucked in a breath of cold air, and his attitude became even more cordial and respectful. Although the Tao Hall was a highly respected overlord force in the Chaos Ruins, an almighty was still an almighty. No matter where they were famous peak existences that could not be disrespected. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Senior Divine King." Su Yen smiled. "I wouldn't dare. Just call me Uncle Kong." King Kampa's attitude was very humble. He felt that this young man was the disciple of a powerful being. Just like that, King Kampa brought Su Yen and the others to the VIP room. He immediately sealed the VIP room to prevent anyone from interrupting their conversation. "Big brother, sit." Arriving at the VIP room, Su Yen pulled out a chair and greeted prehistoric big brother. King Kampa staggered and almost fell. His expression was extremely strange. He thought that this almighty was Su Yen's master, but what did Su Yen call him? Big brother? Could they be from the Forbidden Zone? King Kampa's heart was in turmoil. His big brother was already so terrifying. Then how strong were their clan's elders? Of course, King Kampa did not dare to ask. He quickly brewed 2 cups of spirit tea and sent it over. He smiled apologetically and said, "I wonder what kind of treasure would you like to appraise? Sometimes my eyes are bad. If it's an especially valuable treasure, I'll need the elders of the Tao auction to come and take a look." "It's not considered especially valuable." Su Yen sat down and said to King Kampa, "It's just some ordinary herbs. It's my first time at the Tao auction, so I don't know the rules. I don't even know if the herbs I'm taking out can be put on the stage." "Haha, you must be joking." King Kampa chuckled and said, "The Tao auction this time isn't a super auction. When the time comes, the auction's treasures might disappoint you." Su Yen directly threw out 2 jade boxes and handed them to King Kampa. The prehistoric elder brother also turned his head, which was a rare sight. His messy hair draped over his shoulders, covering his face. His appearance could not be seen clearly. At this moment, he also seemed to be curious about the item that Su Yen wanted to bid for. King Kampa directly opened the jade boxes. The 2 jade boxes each contained 2 types of herbs. One was golden and shiny, while the other was completely black. King Kampa was really afraid that he would make an error in judgment and make the Divine King unhappy. When he saw these 2 items, he already had a headache. He felt that he should have asked the elders of the Tao auction to appraise the treasures because he could not see how special these 2 herbs were. However, in the next moment, the prehistoric big brother's eyes suddenly sharpened. It was like 2 immortal swords slicing through the void, intimidating people. King Kampa trembled. His body felt like it was about to collapse. He trembled in fear. What was going on? Why did the mighty figure's aura suddenly leak out? King Kampa's face turned pale. He immediately felt that the item Su Yen took out must be extremely valuable. Perhaps he stole it behind his family's back, making the mighty figure unhappy. Su Yan's heart was also pounding. He took out the extreme yang grass and extreme yin grass. They were excavated by Su Yen from the Yin Yang Road. They were the most special herbs used to refine the little divine king pill. However, There was no need for the prehistoric Big Brother to be moved by this item, right? Is this item qualified to be on the stage? Su Yan asked directly. Yes, yes, yes. King Kanpa did not even think before answering. Although he did not know what this item was, it was definitely qualified to be on the stage. What a joke. Even the mighty figures were paying attention. All right. Su Yan waved his hand and took out another 10 jade boxes. He wanted to auction a total of 12 herbs. King Kampa's expression was not normal. He glanced at the prehistoric Big Brother. There were 12 herbs. He did not know what kind of treasure they were, but he felt that they were very valuable. Seeing that the mighty figure did not speak, King Kampa heaved a sigh of relief. He asked, "Do you have any other treasures to bid for?" "Nope." Su Yan stood up and said, "I'll have to trouble King Kampa. I hope the herbs I take out can be sold for a good price." Of course, of course." King Kampa quickly smiled and said, "My auction will start in half a day. I've already instructed my subordinates to arrange a private room. Please follow me to rest." They left the appraisal room area. There were more than 10,000 private rooms in the Grand Avenue auction house, but more than half of them were already taken. King Kampa arranged for them to sit in the private room at the front and hurriedly left. Su Yan's private room was luxurious. The floor was covered with precious animal skins. As soon as he entered, a group of beautiful maids came in with spirit fruits and snacks and placed them on the table. "You can leave first." Su Yan waved his hand and the group of maids left. Su Yan closed the door of the private room and walked to the prehistoric Big Brother. He shook his sleeves and the extreme yang grass and extreme yin grass fell down. There were hundreds of them. The prehistoric Big Brother was stunned by this scene. Then, the prehistoric Big Brother took out 2 yin-yang grass. His palm glowed and the 2 herbs withered instantly. Su Yan's face turned pale because he saw the withered herbs being deprived of 2 streams of energy. The prehistoric Big Brother had directly absorbed the special energy of the 2 herbs. Could it be that this thing was helpful to mighty figures? Yin-yang grass. The prehistoric Big Brother rarely spoke. His words were like the ringing of a golden bell, full of weight and majesty. It was deafening and made Su Yan surprised and happy. "Big Brother, what kind of herb is this?" Su Yan asked. "I dug this thing out from a mysterious yin-yang road. There are a large number of yin-yang fish in it. There is even a mysterious force that dominates the yin-yang road." Su Yan even took out the black paper and said that it was related to the yin-yang road. It was obvious that Su Yan saw the prehistoric Big Brother's pupils suddenly shrink. A pair of deep and terrifying pupils shot out a terrifying beam of light that shone on the black paper. At this moment, Su Yan had an illusion. It was as if the black paper had come to life. It was filled with black fog and seemed to ignite on its own. The scene it reflected shocked Su Yan. What exactly is this black paper? Is it not as simple as recording a secret technique? The secret technique recorded on this thing can attract the power of the universe's origin to kill it. Su Yan's eyes widened. The black paper looked very demonic. The light it reflected was the dark space condensed in spacetime. Dark space, condensed in spacetime, was as small as a grain of black sand. Just as Su Yan was feeling suspicious, he found the prehistoric Big Brother's aura surging over and suppressing him. Su Yan was moved. What kind of evil existed in this black paper? It actually made the prehistoric Big Brother take action to protect Su Yan? Soon, Su Yan, who was protected by the power, was petrified. This was because this grain of black sand rolled on its own, crushing the void until it trembled. It was so crushing that the power of the prehistoric Big Brother was about to explode. Moreover, this grain of black sand rapidly enlarged and expanded. It looked very terrifying. Even with the prehistoric Big Brother's power protecting Su Yan still felt like his body was about to explode. Su Yan was aghast. The prehistoric Big Brother was unbelievably strong. Even Su Yan was not weak. However, with the prehistoric Big Brother's power protecting him, in addition to Su Yan's own strength, he could not withstand the momentum of this grain of black sand's resurrection. If not for the prehistoric Big Brother's power protecting him, Su Yan felt that the Great Dao auction house would collapse. Perhaps the entire Great Dao city would fall into chaos because of the resurrection of the black sand. Boom! In the end, Su Yan's ears roared. He had a splitting headache and almost fainted from the shock. This grain of black sand was rotating. Suddenly, it was turbulent countless times. It was like a condensed dark universe being released. The brilliance was terrifying and the scene was spectacular to the extreme. In fact, all of this was because of the prehistoric Big Brother's power protecting him. As a result, the ancient darkness world only existed. In a world that had been compressed, Su Yan felt that the extremely vast ancient darkness world could support the entire Great Dao city, if not for that. What the hell is this? How can it be so terrifying? Could it be that a supreme treasure has been refined into an internal universe? Su Yan stuttered. He even noticed that the prehistoric Big Brother's face was solemn. This meant that the problem was huge. The condensed ancient darkness world was boiling. It was breaking free and wanting to come out. Because of the prehistoric Big Brother's unique power, the ancient darkness world could not fully erupt. But when it was released to a certain limit, within the interior of the ancient darkness world, there was actually a vague and massive outline that appeared. It was as if there was a supreme life form hidden within, and it emitted a chilling aura that made one shiver. Humph! The prehistoric Big Brother's eyes turned cold. He sneered and directly shattered the radiance of the ancient darkness world. A huge human face was vaguely revealed. It seemed to have rotted and was steaming with blood. The human face was abnormally terrifying. The world could not accommodate it. Only a blurry silhouette could be seen. This meant that it was too powerful. Even the tightly shut eyes of the human face slowly opened. It was as if two condensed universes were being released. Su Yan's eyes were about to be blinded. What kind of eyes were these? It was indescribable. They were like pupils that looked down on the past, present, and future. As they opened and closed, the prehistoric Big Brother's defensive power began to distort violently. There was also a dense bloodlight that shone on the Big Brother's body. It seemed to see through his origins, causing the blurry human face to glow and the universe to tremble. The terrifying energy was contending with the Big Brother's defensive power. A huge black crack suddenly appeared in the prehistoric Big Brother's defensive power. It was as if they were fighting in another spacetime. Just the collision of their auras was quite frightening. There was even a slight aura that leaked out. It made Su Yan's hair stand on end. He only felt that the energy was so vast that it filled the universe's starry sea. It covered the entire chaotic ruins, and its aura was too majestic. It was even accompanied by a majestic voice that seemed to be transmitted from the prehistoric spacetime. The ancient voice berated the prehistoric Big Brother. He seemed to have seen through the Big Brother's origins. Chapter 950. Su Yan's expression was not normal. He had always carried the black paper with him, but he never would have thought that there would be such a powerful existence inside. There was still an unmatched creature hidden within the black sheet of paper. It was impossible to imagine how long it had lived for. If he hadn't taken out the black paper, he might have lost his life when the ancient darkness world revived. The existence hidden in the ancient world was truly terrifying. The entire ancient darkness world couldn't contain his face. Even his eyes were only half open. However, it was so majestic that it could be said to be two major life star domains. It was a shocking impact on Su Yan's vision. He's talking. What exactly is he talking about? How long has this creature lived for? Su Yan muttered. He felt that this existence's age couldn't be measured because it was speaking an ancient language. Su Yan couldn't understand what it meant, but it was obviously talking to the prehistoric Big Brother. Could it be that they knew each other? Su Yan's breathing was heavy. He didn't know if the prehistoric Big Brother could suppress it. Once this existence appeared, the great Tao city would be plunged into misery and suffering. After all, with the prehistoric Big Brother's battle prowess, even the Almighty would have to retreat. Honglong. However, this terrifying ancient darkness world began to tremble at this moment. This was the Big Brother's powerful attack. He seemed to have been angered by the words spoken by the existence in the ancient darkness world. He suddenly raised his bronze hand. At this moment, he was extremely powerful and incomparably cold. His entire body was releasing a terrifying belief. This was Su Yan's first time seeing his prehistoric Big Brother explode. That kind of supreme belief, that kind of belief that even gods and demons would be destroyed if they came, was a kind of terrifying belief that was invincible in the history of reincarnation, able to suppress all enemies. Honglong. The bronze hand was terrifying. It crossed over to the ancient darkness world. His entire palm was incomparably huge, covering the sky and the sun. It covered everything and was going to bury the entire ancient darkness world. Had the darkness dispersed? The answer wasn't so. The ancient darkness world once again evolved into the black paper. At this moment, the black paper was extremely majestic. It was as if a corner of the universe was pressing down. It was incomparably terrifying. A dense aura of death spread out here. It was as if a black dam had exploded. A sinister wind overflowed and was bone-chilling. It was a different kind of battle that didn't exist in this world. It seemed to have erupted in another time and space. The black paper was heavy to the extreme, blocking the prehistoric Big Brother's large hand. It was so heavy that it wanted to cross the heavens, cross the sea of stars, and collapse vast regions one after another. Boom! The prehistoric Big Brother's aura soared. His outstretched palm kept colliding with the black paper. His battle prowess was getting stronger and stronger. His entire aura was completely different. He seemed to have transformed into an old man with unparalleled battle prowess. The moment it shook, it penetrated through the black space-time. Everything trembled, especially the huge hand that grabbed the blurry face. Kill! The prehistoric Big Brother let out a low roar. His messy hair danced in the wind as his peerless aura spread out. His palm formed a fist imprint with lightning speed and smashed over, striking the black paper until it trembled greatly. It seemed as if it was bleeding and surging with black light. Even the ancient darkness world hidden within began to tremble. This fist simply shook an ancient universe. Su Yan seemed to see a universe explode and all life would be plunged into misery and suffering. Trillions of lives would be buried along with it. It was hard to imagine just what level of battle this was. Buzz! The prehistoric Big Brother's palm directly penetrated the black world. This slap was simply about to destroy the black world. That huge blurry face began to distort and collapse, scattering black blood everywhere. The prehistoric Big Brother was cold and tyrannical. This was because his large bronze hand was holding the huge face. The Supreme Existence's body trembled greatly. He let out a sinister voice. Lonely souls and wild ghosts, there will be a day when you return to your home. A cruel and cold voice emerged. It was extremely evil and sinister, a sinister laugh that belonged to the ancient world's creatures. Just what kind of clan did the Black Paper and the Enyang Road belong to? They had always been hiding on the other side of the world. It was hard to imagine what their goal was. That Shui Guan had some connections with this mysterious clan. Su Yan also had an unbreakable karma with the Enyang Road. He had once stolen a shocking fortune from the Enyang Road, stealing large amounts of Enyang fish and Enyang grass. Back then, this mysterious clan had even taken action to capture the Tai Baokai. It was unknown just how great of a price the Fiend Realm had paid to snatch the Tai Baokai from the Enyang Road. In short, this mysterious power would surface sooner or later. No matter what, they were enemies. No matter what their goal was, they would have to face them sooner or later. Ah! The creature in the black paper screamed miserably. The prehistoric Big Brother's palm still held it tightly. That terrifying power attacked, causing it to scream uncontrollably. The face directly collapsed as it rotted. It's dead. Su Yen was astonished. Just how powerful was this creature? It had been forcefully wiped out by the prehistoric Big Brother from the beginning of the battle until now. He didn't say a word. Was this a kind of disdain, or was it a kind of knowing? The prehistoric Big Brother's expression was cold. With a wave of his hand, the evil space inside the black paper collapsed and disintegrated. The black paper returned to calmness and floated in the void. The entire private room also returned to normal. No buildings were damaged. This was his strength. He was peerless and invincible. The black paper seemed even more extraordinary. It was indestructible. The prehistoric Big Brother had swung his fist and smashed it on the paper, but it didn't crack. It was hard to imagine what kind of material it was made of. Big Brother's punch might be able to crack the sacred weapon of a supreme existence. The black paper should be made of supreme treasured materials. Could it be that Big Brother killed the weapon spirit in the paper? Su Yen thought to himself. It was said that when a treasure was powerful to a certain level, it would give birth to its own intelligence. This was just a legend. Su Yen had never come into contact with supreme treasures. All kinds of strange characters were engraved on the black paper. They were the sun, the moon, the stars, birds, and beasts. It was an extremely ancient metal character and hieroglyph. It emitted a strange fluctuation, making Su Yen not dare to act rashly. The prehistoric Big Brother directly sealed the item and threw it to Su Yen. Big Brother, don't you want it? I have no use for it. I'll give it to you. Su Yen caught the black paper. He had obtained it by chance, but he didn't expect it to have such far-reaching implications. He didn't need the black paper at all. Maybe the prehistoric Big Brother could unleash its power. The prehistoric Big Brother shook his head slightly. He only glanced at the black paper a few times before losing interest. Su Yen could only accept the black paper. His heart was also full of doubts. The Inyang Road was becoming more and more mysterious in his heart. What kind of race did they belong to? Was it a life-forbidden zone? How far back could they go? Was it an underground power of the same era as the Celestial Court's remnant race? The prehistoric Big Brother's expression was cold. Su Yen didn't dare to ask too much. There were some things that they couldn't understand at the moment. There were too many mysterious things in the universe. However, to be able to make the prehistoric Big Brother reveal such an expression, this mysterious Inyang Road definitely hid some extremely shocking secret. It wasn't something that Su Yen could come into contact with at the moment. My strength is still too weak. The more I know, the weaker I feel. Su Yen sighed in his heart. Then, he calmed down. His body flowed with a strange fluctuation as he entered the cultivation process of the body nurturing technique. The prehistoric Big Brother definitely had his reasons for imparting the body nurturing technique to him. In the state of the body nurturing technique, Su Yen's body seemed to have transformed into a part of the universe, hibernating in spacetime. His entire body began to change life and vitality. It was like a seed planted in spring, absorbing the origin energy of the universe and growing healthily amidst the nourishment. However, in a distant spacetime, a terrifying upheaval had erupted here because of the black paper's mutation. This world was mysterious and special. In this dark world, there was no daylight. The atmosphere was excessively heavy and there were no traces of life. The entire world was dark. Even the sun, moon, rivers, and mountains were black. Even the vast rivers were as black as ink. There wasn't a trace of light, nor was there any dawn. There was no end in sight to this dark world. It was also a land of death. It lay here in silence for a long period of time without anyone disturbing it. In this oppressive world, it was unknown how many years it had been silent. It was as if it had always been sealed, and had always been in a state of no man's land. But at this moment, the sound of thunder appeared. It exploded in this peaceful world, and was deafening to the ears. It was like the sound of a heartbeat, beating one after another. Every syllable shook the heavens and the earth, causing the majestic black mountain range to rise and fall. The vast territory trembled and the myriad trees rustled. A terrifying aura overflowed and shook the four seas. These heartbeats were even more ferocious than the beating of the divine drum. 9 consecutive heartbeats, especially the last one, caused some of the divine king guarding the ancient land to tremble. Cracks even appeared on their bodies. They were terrified and stirred up, as if the ruler of their lives had revived. These creatures in this dark world directly knelt on the ground, continuously kowtowing, shouting loudly. Their voices were extremely ancient, as if they were calling out to an unmatched creature that had slumbered in the archaic era. The dark world was covered in large cracks, the source couldn't be seen. Terrifying life force trembled. Heaven overflowing black waves were born, accompanied by thick haze. They surged and rippled, engulfing endless time and space. Fortunately, this was an uninhabited region. Otherwise, it was unknown just how many people would have died. A terrifying creature was hidden in this world of heaven and earth. One could vaguely see a pair of enormous eyes opening at the limits. It was too terrifying. The sun, moon, and stars seemed insignificant in the eyes. When it opened and closed, groups of stars exploded, the sea of stars collapsed. Unimaginable creatures were exuding life force. There was even a majestic voice that erupted, shaking heaven and earth. His voice echoed through the boundless starry sky. Life and Death Book's remnant chapter. This cold voice was even sharper than a heavenly blade. It was unknown just how long it had cut through the void. It contained a type of coldness. It pointed towards the distant chaotic ruins floating in space. He seemed to be able to see the scene in Great Tao City. Chapter 951. As night fell, the Great Tao City was like a fairyland. It was raining great Tao light and auspicious clouds were rising. It was a sacred scene. Although it was night, the entire Great Tao City was bustling with noise and excitement, especially at the Great Tao auction house. There was news that a mighty figure had come to the auction house to participate in the auction. This also caused the entire Great Tao auction house to be quiet. In the face of such a grand auction, even the young experts of the various races did not dare to speak. They were all quietly waiting for the auction to begin. When all the seats were filled, it also meant that the auction house would officially open. I'm Uncle Kong. Greetings to all my friends and seniors. The loud and clear voice reverberated throughout the entire auction house. The originally calm auction house instantly became lively. There were hundreds of thousands of seats here, and all of them were deity domain cultivators. The lowest requirement for this auction was to be a God King auctioneer. If it was really a super auction, it would basically be a half-mighty figure who stood up to display the items for sale. The standards were extremely high. Su Yen also opened his eyes and looked around. After returning from the body-nurturing technique state, he had a feeling that he had not felt in the world for a long time. This made Su Yen feel strange. If he continued to sleep like this, would thousands of years have passed in the world? In short, the body-nurturing technique was extremely magical. Su Yen attached more importance to this technique. Su Yen sat in the box at the front. From there, he could overlook the entire venue. His gaze quickly fell on the auction stage. The first item on display had already made Su Yen envious. The auction stage was huge and made of special treasures. The bronze auction stage was also intertwined with dense ancient Tao marks. It was unknown how many years it had been placed there. On the auction stage in the past, all kinds of rare treasures had been placed. Over time, it gradually gained sentience and released a treasure aura on its own. It was like a large gemstone. It was said that some old antiques who liked to collect all kinds of treasures were extremely interested in the auction stage of the Great Tao auction house. Someone had once offered a high price to buy it but was rejected by the great Tao auction house. After all, the auction stage had been accumulated over a long period of time. It had gathered a certain amount of treasure aura. If it continued for many generations, the power of the auction stage might soar and evolve into a supreme treasure on its own. Supreme treasure? To be called a supreme treasure, it had the potential to evolve into a mighty sacred weapon. Of course, almighty sacred weapons had another name, Great Tao Sacred Weapons. This was already the best weapon in the world. Of course, supreme treasures were too rare. No one could refine such a thing. The origin of supreme treasures was still a mystery to this day. Perhaps only the forces that controlled supreme treasures knew the true origin of these supreme treasures. Now, there was an item floating on the auction stage that attracted the attention of many experts. It was a sparkling and translucent stone mansion. It was about half the size of a palm, small and exquisite. It seemed to be a type of artwork. It was very exquisite and ornamental. However, the first item to be auctioned in the Grand Avenue auction house was usually not too weak. This item even made Su Yan a little jealous. This was an extremely rare secret palace. Time Cavern Manor. Kong Bada praised. It's an extremely rare treasure. According to the auction house's appraisal, this cave mansion used to be the cultivation place of a half-step almighty. As soon as he finished speaking, the palm-sized cave mansion instantly glowed. Layers of ancient aura rose spontaneously, accompanied by a heavy aura that made it difficult for many people to breathe. The cave mansion revolved, accompanied by a vast spatial fluctuation. This space cave mansion quickly enlarged, like a giant mountain that could support the sky. The entire space cave mansion also revealed a vague fluctuation of the Grand Avenue order. There was no doubt that this space cave mansion was amazing in terms of defense and flight. Moreover, it was the cave mansion of a half-step almighty who had cultivated for a long time. Its significance was completely different, and it made many divine king jealous. 1,500 kilograms of chaos material. Someone couldn't help but bid. Su Yan was excited. This item was very precious, and it was very safe to cultivate in it. Moreover, this was a space-time cave mansion. It could drift in the universe and even shrink to the size of a speck of dust. In general, it had many wonderful uses. However, the price was also very expensive. It had already soared to 3,000 kilograms of chaos material. The bidders were all divine king, and he was very rich. Su Yan wanted to compete, but the price was too high. Although he had a lot of wealth, his wealth would be shocking with the addition of the 12 yin-yang grasses. However, this item wasn't very useful to Su Yan, so he could only give up on competing for the space cave mansion. In the end, this item was bought at a shocking price of 6,900 kilograms, which made everyone present speechless. This price was really expensive. However, some people said that the Grand Avenue auction house had once bid for the cultivation cave of a supreme being, and that price was really shocking. 1 innate spiritual sword. The starting price is 1,000 kilograms of chaos material. King Kongpa waved his sleeve, and a dazzling sword light streaked across the void. The sword body was blurry and quickly exploded. It was like a blue sea chopping down. It was filled with rich fluctuations of the Grand Avenue, and the sound of the Grand Avenue trembled on its own. The older generation were all moved. This was a sword embryo nurtured by heaven and earth, and it had nurtured the Grand Avenue of water. This item was rare and precious. Su Yan glanced at it and shook his head slightly. The sword embryo had a huge flaw. It was obviously dug out before it was fully nurtured. If it had really been successfully nurtured, the starting price of this item would have increased by dozens of times. However, this kind of innate spiritual sword would easily require a universe era to nurture. The expert who discovered this item probably couldn't wait and dug it out in advance. 3,000 kilograms of chaos material. A female cultivator stood out and bid for the innate spiritual sword. 1 scarlet coral. King Kongpa shouted out the third item, and Su Yen was stunned. He had only known about this item before. It was also the information passed to him by the prehistoric Big Brother. It was a heavenly treasure called scarlet coral. It was obvious that many cultivators didn't know what it was. However, when King Kongpa took it out, many women's eyes lit up. This was because this scarlet coral was extremely beautiful. It looks like a coral. Su Yen focused and looked at it. It was a coral that was as red as fire. It was surrounded by scarlet smoke and fire. It was beautiful and dazzling. It released its own divine radiance, as if it had evolved into a country of water. The scarlet coral was surrounded by scarlet smoke and fire. This was a picture of water and fire coexisting. This scarlet coral can be used as a sacred medicine to strengthen one's body. It can also be used as a sacred medicine to nourish one's health. King Kongpa smiled and said, "This item is extremely rare. It can only be nurtured in a place of extreme water and fire. This scarlet coral is over 40,000 years old. It's a rare item. The starting price is 2,000 kilograms of chaos material. I bid 3,000 kilograms. I bid 3,400 kilograms." The scene was extremely lively. There were many cultivators bidding. Some of the famous noble ladies of the great Tao city stood up and spoke. Without a doubt, they didn't lack money. Just the scarlet coral's ornamental value was extremely high, not to mention its effects. 4,500 kilograms of chaos material. Su Yen endured the pain and directly called out the price. He had an illusion that he was a tycoon outside the city. However, when he came to the great Tao city and the great Tao auction house, why did he feel so poor? Su Yan's face was full of tears. A scarlet coral cost close to 5,000 kilograms of chaos material. However, in the information given to him by Big Brother Prehistoric, there were no less than 1,000 kinds of heavenly treasures. How much money would it cost to buy all of them? Su Yen didn't dare to imagine. He also wanted to know what the scarlet coral's effects were. The auction continued. Dozens of strange items were brought out. The scene was unusually silent. Among the hundreds of thousands of seats, 90% of the cultivators were completely dumbfounded. They really felt that they were poor. Generally speaking, a few hundred kilograms of chaos material was considered rich. However, in the great Tao auction house, they didn't even have the right to call out the lowest starting price. Moreover, the further it went, the more valuable the items were. Damn, I'm a poor man. Why did I come here? Someone cursed and counted his net worth many times. It didn't exceed 1,000. He didn't even have the right to call out the price. After all, the resources in the Chaos Ruins were much more abundant than in the outside world. Moreover, chaos material was abundant in the Chaos Ruins. If the Divine King in the outside world had 1,000 kilograms of chaos material, he would be considered rich. However, in the Chaos Ruins it would probably be 10 times more. Sir, your scarlet coral. Soon, Su Yan's treasure was delivered. A beautiful maid carried the scarlet coral to Su Yen on a jade plate. Su Yen paid the bill and stared at the scarlet flaming coral. First of all, this thing was like a tide of life. A vast life aura emerged. Just this life force alone was definitely several times more than ordinary herbs of the same level. It also contained a unique life force. Su Yen tried to absorb it. Under the state of the body preservation art, a unique suction force emerged, pulling the scarlet coral's medicinal efficacy into Su Yan's body. At this moment, Su Yen felt as if he were soaking in a hot spring. It was so comfortable that he could die. He even felt his own life force strengthening. The scarlet coral's energy was very special. It had a miraculous effect on the path of the mortal body. He felt as if his body was being baptized. His body was sparkling and translucent, without any impurities. The bones in his body began to resonate as if they had been sublimated. This is too heaven-defying. Isn't the body preservation art seizing the good fortune of all things? It's similar to my initial sutra. Su Yen was left speechless. He continued to absorb the scarlet coral's effect. He opened his eyes in a daze. As he looked at the scarlet coral, he suddenly understood. He needed the scarlet coral's source strength to nourish his body, but he didn't need all of it. Seize the essence of famous mountains, great rivers, and plants and gather them into my body. Su Yen laughed in his heart. If one day I collect all the rare treasures and plant them in my cave abode, absorbing them day by day, wouldn't I be able to live forever? He was only thinking about it. As for how strong the body preservation art was, Su Yen still needed to continue uncovering it in the future. Just as Su Yen regained his senses, he heard a mocking voice that made him shiver. Bamboo Moon, you want to compete with me? Are you qualified? Chapter 952. This mocking voice caused the lively atmosphere in the auction house to suddenly fall silent. The surname Zhu was undoubtedly the surname of the Sky Bamboo lineage. The clan's prestige in the primal chaos ruins was world-shocking. It was a famous giant force. Ordinary top clans like the He clan were nothing in front of the Sky Bamboo lineage. In fact, there was more than one almighty in the clan. It was said that the Sky Bamboo lineage had given birth to an invincible king. Although she rarely appeared, her reputation was widespread. After all, she was born in an Overlord force. The younger generation of the clan was one of the strongest in each era of the universe. I've heard of Bamboo Moon. It's said that she's a young genius born in the Sky Bamboo lineage. She's also a peerless beauty. My family has also passed down information about a peerless female god. She's infinitely close to the divine king. It's said that this fairy named Bamboo Moon was previously the leader of the Big Dipper star region in the outside world. She's very impressive. There was a lot of discussion. These forces had a certain understanding of the outstanding disciples of the Overlord forces. Ever since Bamboo Moon had ascended to the Heaven God realm, she had gradually become famous in the Chaos ruins. Bamboo Moon is also in the auction house. Su Yan's emotions surged. He didn't know how many years had passed. Ever since they parted ways in the Milky Way, there had been no news of Bamboo Moon. He really didn't expect to meet Bamboo Moon in the auction house. 3,000 caddies of chaos treasured material. A light voice followed and spread throughout the auction house. The voice originated from a private room, and the speaker's appearance couldn't be seen clearly. I'll offer 6,500 caddies of chaos treasured material. Bamboo Moon, I'll take it. You'd better leave. Bamboo Moon had just finished her bid when the voice that mocked her earlier came again. At the same time, a woman with a proud figure stood up from a private room. She was wearing a long red dress, and had a cold and noble temperament. Su Yen frowned and looked around the private room of the speaker. The door was tightly shut and he couldn't see who it was. However, the discussions that reverberated throughout the auction hall caused Su Yan's expression to slowly darken. It's Han Weiran, the proud daughter of the Han family, Han Weiran. The entire place was in an uproar. The Han family was considered a super powerful force in the primal chaos ruins. The geniuses of the younger generation also had illustrious statuses. However, Han Weiran was different. Although her cultivation was also at the peak of the heavenly deity realm, her fame was extremely shocking. That was because Han Weiran and Qiu Ming had a close relationship. According to the rumors, it was very likely that Qiu Ming's Dao companion was Han Weiran. This also caused Han Weiran's fame to soar. After all, Qiu Ming was an outstanding talent. He was the king of his generation, the divine king. It was said that he could step into the realm of Almighty at any time. His Dao companion was naturally a proud daughter of heaven. This Han Weiran is also one of the most dazzling women in the primal chaos ruins. Why is Han Weiran of the Han family competing with Zhu Mingzhu of the Sky Bamboo branch? Haven't the two clans always been on good terms? Many people were puzzled. They were different from Fairy Xia. The secrets that Fairy Xia could understand were things that ordinary people had never even heard of. Moreover, even if there were people who really knew about the grudges between them, they wouldn't dare to talk nonsense here. This was because it involved three major forces: Qiuming, the Han family, and the Sky Bamboo branch. Big sister, that bitch Bamboo Moon has been seducing brother-in-law Qiuming. You must teach her a lesson. In the box, Hong Kong was also here. He sneered and said to Han Weiran, "Make her lose face." The word brother-in-law made a smile appear on Han Weiran's noble face. She wore a long red dress and had a cold and noble temperament. She was also an outstanding person who would tremble with a stomp of her feet. Because of her relationship with Qiuming, she was also one of the leading figures in the Circle of Pearls of various races. Han Weiran is too much. She knows that you have the star and moon body, but she's deliberately making things difficult for you at this time. In another box, a few young ladies were also present. They were so angry that they stomped their feet, and their faces turned red. In front of this group of young ladies, Bamboo Moon was as calm as a true immortal. She was graceful and elegant, and her temperament was otherworldly. She was like a true immortal, and her body exuded the immortal charm of the great Tao. Bamboo Moon was also very close to the Divine King's domain. Her bright eyes looked at an item floating on the auction stage. She said calmly, 4,000 kilograms of chaos-treasured material. The whole place was in an uproar. This was already a terrifying price. This was the most precious item since the beginning of the auction. It was a special fruit that sometimes looked like a star, sometimes like a crescent moon. It was hazy and dazzling. This was a top-notch sacred medicine, the star and moon fruit. This fruit was extremely difficult to nurture. It was said that this top-notch sacred medicine would only form after many years of precipitation in the ancient star sea. It was very rare, and one might not even appear in an ordinary universe. Of course, no matter how powerful this item was, it wasn't a divine medicine. 4,000 kilograms of chaos-treasured material was already a huge fortune. Although Bamboo Moon was now in the Sky Bamboo lineage and was being nurtured by the Patriarch, the resources that she could use were limited. "I'll bid 8,500 kilograms. Han Weiran said calmly, "Bamboo Moon, no matter how much you bid, I'll add more. I'll add more. I've already said it, you can't have it." Han Weiran's eyes were gloomy. She knew that Qiuming had gone to the Milky Way to meet Bamboo Moon. Although she knew Qiuming's motive, Han Weiran was still extremely unhappy. Now, she finally had the chance to teach Bamboo Moon a lesson. "If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know my name." Han Weiran sneered. "Anyway, that item isn't with you now. Big Brother Qiuming won't target you. As for that kid called Su Yan, Big Brother Qiuming doesn't have to do anything. My Han family can suppress him. The mystical gate lineage's topography inheritance. The entire Han family highly valued it. Now, when Hong Kong thought of the Su Yan he met in the pub, he was still brooding. He really didn't know if this guy was real or fake. 9. When Bamboo Moon was about to raise the price for the second time, Zhu Yongjia, who had been silent at the side, frowned and said, "Bamboo Moon, are you going to squander the family's resources like this? Although the star moon fruit is precious, it has already exceeded the price. But the price has already exceeded it by quite a bit. Moreover, even if you continue to increase it, Han Weiran will not stop. What right do you have to criticize me?" Bamboo Moon was soft on the outside but strong on the inside. Although her temperament was graceful and elegant, her heart was unyielding. Her eyes fell on Zhu Yongjia and frowned. "Did I use one tale of your lineage's chaos treasure material? You!" Zhu Yongjia's face was gloomy. He didn't expect Bamboo Moon to dare to speak to him like this. Although Bamboo Moon's status wasn't lower than Zhu Yongjia's, Bamboo Moon had left the family for many years. She didn't have enough resources in the Sky Bamboo lineage. She also lacked the support of the powerful Dali. Would she dare to offend him? Bamboo Moon, watch your attitude. Zhu Yongjiao was extremely unhappy. He looked at her coldly and shouted, "Even if you have resources, can you beat Han Weiran?" Then, he said in a mocking tone, "She has Qiuming's support." "Do you?" In terms of wealth, Qiuming's wealth is almost comparable to that of an almighty. But what do you have? If you continue to raise the price, you will only embarrass our sky bamboo lineage. The maids under Zhu Yu's command dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. Zhu Yongjiang knew what had happened between the three of them before. Now that Qiuming was mentioned, it was to deliberately disgust Zhu Yu. "You're worrying too much," Zhu Yu said coldly. "I am me and you are you. Can you shut up for me?" "Bastard!" Zhu Pengyi was furious. He pointed at Bamboo Moon and said angrily, "Don't think that I don't know what you want to do. I will definitely ask the family to not let you cause the family to suffer heavy losses because of your personal grudges. The family won't pay for you." Bamboo Moon shook her head and laughed. He, Zhu Pengyi, was afraid that she would spend too many resources. From beginning to end, she was just an outsider in their eyes. "Bamboo Moon, are you going to raise the price? Why are you backing down now?" Han Weiran's tone was aggressive. She looked like she was spending money like it was dirt. She didn't care about money. As long as she could make Bamboo Moon suffer, spending some money was nothing to Han Weiran. "This star moon fruit is not bad. I am also interested." Su Yan's voice suddenly spread throughout the room. "I bid 9,000 jin of chaos material." Su Yan's eyes stared at the star moon fruit. No wonder Bamboo Moon wanted it. This thing was suitable for Bamboo Moon's physique. She had the star moon physique, and the star moon fruit was the best sacred medicine for her physique. In Han Weiran's hands, this thing didn't have much effect. However, it was different for Bamboo Moon. Its power was no weaker than a divine medicine. This thing was enough to dig out the potential of Bamboo Moon's physique. In the future, she would have a strong foundation when she entered the Divine King. This thing could be said to be very important to Bamboo Moon. "You have always helped me in the past. Now I want to help you." Su Yan was calm and composed as he stood in the room. This voice stunned everyone. The two women were competing, and now an uninvited guest had appeared. Han Weiran was also stunned. Her face was vaguely ugly. Who dared to compete with her? "Big sister, this is the best box. I don't know who it is." Han Kong directly reminded Han Weiran. Generally speaking, those who could sit in the box closest to the box had a powerful background. In fact, there might even be an almighty sitting in one of these private rooms. It was very likely that there was more than one almighty expert. Although the auction was said to be fair, no one would bid for some unimportant items and offend an expert who should not be offended. 9,000 jin of chaos material. The next bid made Su Yan stagger and almost fall to the ground. Because Bamboo Moon was bidding, the whole room was in an uproar. The price had already exceeded the value of the star moon fruit. "Bamboo Moon, you still won't give up." Han Weiran's eyes flashed with a cold light. She followed closely and the price directly climbed to 10,000 jin. This scene shocked everyone. The bid had broken through 10,000 jin. This was a little too ridiculous. 11,000 jin. Without waiting for Bamboo Moon to speak, Su Yan aggressively increased the price with a determined tone. Such confidence, such boldness. Coupled with the inexplicable pressure from the best box, many people's hearts trembled. Who was the person inside? He did not even give face to the Sky Bamboo and the Han family. Could he have a powerful background? Bamboo Moon sighed. She felt that there was little hope. The star moon fruit could not be bought. 10,000 jin of chaos material was already her limit. Han Weiran also hesitated. However, due to the price and the mysterious identity of the other party, Han Weiran smiled and said, "Since this fellow Taoist wants it, I will fulfill your wish." Ha ha, looks like the auction for the star moon fruit is over. King Kampa's face was full of joy. He said to Su Yan's box, "Congratulations on obtaining the Star Moon fruit. This item has been sold. I will send the fruit to your box later. Please wait for a moment." "No need." Su Yan directly sat down and waved his hand. "This item is not fated with me. King Kampa, please send someone to send the Star Moon fruit to Fairy Bamboo Moon." With this, the entire auction house fell into a dead silence. Jiutian Divine Emperor. Chapter 953. The Grand Avenue Auction House, a place where experts gathered, fell into a dead silence. Many people were dumbfounded, doubting their own hearing. What did they hear? A Star Moon fruit worth 11,000 kilograms of chaos material, a top-tier sage medicine. It had just been bought at an exorbitant price, and now it was given to a peerless beauty from the sky bamboo lineage. They were doubting their own lives. What was going on? The two women argued for a long time, and in the end, someone stepped forward to buy it and give it to Bamboo Moon, who was being bullied by Han Weiran. Even Bamboo Moon, who was sighing in her private room, thought she had misheard. She was stunned and at a loss. Zhu Yongjiao was dumbfounded. He had seen people give gifts, but he had never seen someone do it in such a domineering way. This made Zhu Yongjiao doubt his own life. Who would be so generous? A Star Moon fruit worth more than 10,000 kilograms of chaos material was given away just like that. Ha ha ha! King Kampa was stunned for a moment before he laughed. All right, I'll do whatever you say. I'll personally give this item to Miss Bamboo Moon. In fact, King Kampa did not think much of it. What a joke. The Almighty was his big brother. His status was much higher than that of a spoiled brat. Even the dozen inyang grass that Su Yan took out shocked the group of elders in the auction house. This group of old fellows was jealous and wanted to buy it. They even wanted to ask where Su Yan got it from. However, King Kampa directly said that the Almighty was his big brother. This group of elders was dumbfounded. No matter how strong they were, no matter how deep the Dao Hall's foundation was, the Almighty was still the Almighty. He was not someone they could disturb. Damn it! Han Weiran was so angry that her liver and lungs hurt. Her face was vaguely ferocious, and she was so angry that she was trembling. She knew how important the Star Moon fruit was to Bamboo Moon. However, she never expected that someone would buy it and give it to Bamboo Moon, and even give her a slap. Bastard! The table in front of Han Weiran exploded. No matter how hard she tried to control the anger in her heart, she could not suppress the raging flames in her heart. She gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Bastard, I don't care who you are. You will pay the price for this." Before Su Yan could open his mouth, King Kampa's face suddenly sank, and he shouted in a low voice, "Han Weiran, this is my Grand Avenue auction house. Are you going to use force against a distinguished guest of my Grand Avenue auction house? How dare you speak so rudely? You're revolting." Han Weiran was undoubtedly a genius of the Han family and had a close relationship with Chiu Ming. But who was King Kampa? What was the status of the Taoist temple? He, Chiu Ming, had been studying in the Taoist temple for many years. How could he, King Kampa, be afraid of a junior? Moreover, Su Yan had a powerful backer and a mysterious power behind him. King Kampa had stood up for him and warned him mercilessly. "You!" Han Weiran was like a tigress whose tail had been stepped on. She was enraged and her face turned purple. She had never been so humiliated before. Everyone present was stunned. What was going on? King Kampa's temper was too explosive. He reprimanded Han Weiran without any consideration for her feelings. Actually, the Grand Avenue Auction House was the Grand Avenue Auction House. It was the top auction house in the universe and was also under the control of the Taoist temple. It had a certain level of authority. Previously, Han Weiran had disregarded her status and repeatedly provoked Bamboo Moon, which had already made King Kampa unhappy. Now, he had found an excuse to attack her. The elder of the Grand Avenue Auction House did not say much and allowed him to speak. It was awesome to have a powerful brother. This person was not afraid of the Han family at all. However, Han Weiran did not dare to say much. Even though she boasted of her status, she knew where she was and who King Kongpa was. Just as she was in a dilemma, Bamboo Moon smiled bitterly and said, "Brother, this item is too precious. However, this item is too precious. I will send the primal chaos material over later." "Fairy, you are welcome. You are on good terms with the old leader of Hokuto. This item is for you." Su Yan's words stunned Bamboo Moon. She slowly stood up. Her slender figure was hazy under the moonlight. She was like a fairy walking out of the Moon Palace, dreamy and illusory. "Is it him?" Bamboo Moon suddenly thought of someone. Her heart skipped a beat and she clenched her slender hands. Could it be Su Yan? Han Weiran's expression was uncertain. She knew Hokuto. It was not an overlord force at all. Could it be that someone who was on good terms with Hokuto be a force that could not be provoked? In any case, Han Weiran could not take this lying down. She said angrily, "Hong Kong, find out who he is. I will not let him have an easy time. Never." Everyone could feel that there was an unusual atmosphere in the auction. More people wanted to know the origin of the mysterious man. "All right, let's move on to the next round of the auction," King Kongpa said with a smile, "a peerless divine king's weapon." The younger generation went crazy. A divine king's weapon was a top-notch treasure no matter where it was, especially a peerless divine king's weapon. A peerless divine king's weapon. The value of this item was beyond Su Yan's expectations. However, he had never owned a peerless divine king's weapon before. The price of a large halberd skyrocketed to nearly 4,000 caddies of chaos treasure. This moved Su Yan. It seemed that the price difference between an ordinary divine king's weapon and a peerless divine king's weapon was huge. Even an ordinary divine king would not be able to afford 4,000 caddies of chaos treasure. After all, this was a peerless divine king's weapon. Its value was extremely high. Next up is a primordial spirit weapon. It can resist the attack of a primordial spirit below the half-step mighty figure. This is a secret treasure that guards the primordial spirit. The starting price is 3,000 caddies of chaos treasure. King Kongpa took out an ancient bell. Su Yan smacked his lips. The Great Avenue Auction House was indeed the Great Avenue Auction House. The lowest price of the items being auctioned was more than 2,000 caddies of chaos treasure. Many of the items were too expensive. They were easily 5,000 to 6,000 caddies of chaos treasure. Moreover, this was not a super auction. However, the scale of this auction was not much different from a super auction. The only thing missing was the final item. Su Yan pondered for a while and was prepared to participate in the competition. His primordial spirit was extremely strong and was close to the Divine King's domain. However, it was likely that he would have to deal with a series of calamities. In order to prevent a primordial spirit attack from an expert, Su Yan was prepared to participate in the auction. Although it could resist the attack of a primordial spirit below the half-step mighty figure, this secret treasure could also resist a certain amount of threat. This item was very expensive. Su Yan bid 4,000 caddies of chaos treasure. Just as he increased the bid, Han Weiran said in a sinister tone, 5,000 caddies of chaos treasure. The atmosphere in the auction house was a little strange. Clearly, Han Weiran did not want Su Yan to get it so easily. Check it out now. Han Weiran looked as if she had Su Yan in the bag. She said coldly, "He doesn't even have a treasure to guard a primordial spirit treasure. What kind of status does he have? Check it out. 3,000 caddies of chaos treasure." Su Yan did not hesitate as he calmly called out the price. I bid 3,000 caddies of chaos treasure." Han Weiran did not hesitate at all. She shouted a jaw-dropping price. "Since this little brother wants it, I'll give it to you." Su Yan sat down. This item was at most 4,000 to 5,000 caddies of chaos treasure. He did not want to be taken advantage of. The chaotic scene froze. Little brother? The proud daughter of the Han family was being called little brother by Su Yan? At Han Weiran's location, the private rooms were shaking violently. It was as if they were about to flip over. This was a terrifying killing intent being released on its own and leaking out uncontrollably. Han Weiran was so angry that she was about to float. This caused some people to have a headache. This Han Weiran was courting death. No matter how angry she was, she should not be angry at an auction house. Han Weiran, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to behave atrociously at my Grand Avenue auction house? King Kongpa's expression changed drastically. This was the Grand Avenue auction house. There were powerful experts participating in the auction. The old grandmaster of the Han family also had an ugly expression. He smiled apologetically and said, King Kongpa, it's just a small problem. It's not worth getting angry. Han Weiran, you're tired. Go and rest. At the same time, the old grandmaster of the Han family looked gloomy. He looked at Su Yan's private room and was furious. This kid did not give the Han family any face at all. Bastard! Han Weiran was furious. Little brother? Su Yan's little brother made her lose the right to continue bidding. However, she really did not dare to act recklessly. This was an auction where even powerful experts were participating in the auction. Even if she had a lot of courage, she would not dare to act recklessly here. Humph! King Kongpa said with a dark face, pay before you leave. Han Weiran, who had just gotten up and was about to leave the private room, turned completely green. She had spent 3,000 kilograms of chaos treasures to buy a secret treasure to protect the primordial spirit. To her, it was completely useless because she had something better than this. Alright, the auction will continue. Without Han Weiran, the auction went exceptionally smoothly. All kinds of treasures were thrown out one after another, blinding Su Yan's eyes. Su Yan also bid many times and bought some natural treasures. They were all information given to him by Big Brother Prehistoric. Su Yan bought whatever he saw. However, the money was spent very quickly. 20,000 kilograms of chaos treasures were thrown out just like that. Su Yan could not bear it anymore. Su Yan also did not know what kind of price the yin-yang grass could be sold for. This is the last item to relieve the effects of the treasures. King Kongpa waved his sleeves. Suddenly, a tragic aura filled the entire auction house. Su Yan's gaze was also attracted. It was a stone stained with all kinds of dried blood. It looked very colorful and had a strong aura of time. Without a doubt, this was an ancient and rare material. Because it was stained with blood, it caused a very brutal energy to mix together on the stone. It was very difficult to dissolve. After my appraisal, this is a universe stone. The moment the voice came, the auction house surged with fanaticism. 99% of the Divine King in the auction house had their eyes on this universe stone. Universe stone. Even the old Divine King with an extremely long lifespan was moved. This was a rare treasure material. Its rarity was about the same as a supreme treasure material. Usually, the strength of a universe stone was determined by its size. If it was a big universe stone, it would be classified as a supreme treasure material. This universe stone was admittedly a little small, but its price was also very shocking. This was especially true for supreme experts who used materials like the universe stone to forge sacred weapons. Some refiners sighed. This was a good item, but unfortunately, it was stained with the blood of experts. The universe stone was contaminated and extremely difficult to purify. Its value was greatly reduced. Su Yan only glanced at it and did not plan to buy it. However, the prehistoric Big Brother suddenly tilted his body. A pair of withered eyes faintly blossomed with a strange light as he stared at the universe stone. Su Yan was quick-witted. He walked over and asked, Big Brother, should we buy this item? The Big Brother nodded deeply. This caused Su Yan to be pleasantly surprised. An item that could attract the attention of the Big Brother was extremely terrifying. Perhaps it was qualified to be the final item. Even Su Yan could not estimate how precious the universe stone was. 9 Heavens Divine Sovereign. Chapter 954. The starting bid for this cosmos stone is 2,500 kilograms of chaos material. As soon as God King Kong Bo finished speaking, many dissatisfied voices immediately rang out in the auction hall. Someone immediately frowned and said, "I say, God King Kong Bo, this Qianquan stone has clearly been contaminated. Its power must be greatly reduced. Isn't the starting price a little too high?" This sentence attracted the agreement of many people as they echoed. King Kongpa smiled and said, "Since ancient times, the value of cosmos stones has been determined by their size. This cosmos stone is not small. How can such a precious stone, second only to supreme treasure materials, be so easily contaminated?" Whether it was contaminated or not, even an appraiser master could not say for sure. They could only wait for an expert to purify the contaminated blood of the cosmos stone before they could tell. Although it was difficult to say for sure now, there were many divine king bidding in the venue. Some people even remembered that a cosmos stone the size of a human head was auctioned off at the Great Tao auction. That was a terrifying price that caused a group of mighty figures to compete with each other. Their eyes were red with envy. Although it was a long time ago, there were records in the ancient books of various races. It was said that the price of the cosmos stone, the size of a human head, had soared to a terrifying price of more than 500,000 kilograms of chaos material. What kind of concept was that? It was a number that made even the pinnacle races tremble. It would easily empty their accumulated wealth over a long period of time. Could mighty figures take out 500,000 kilograms of chaos material? It was almost impossible. It was said that several mighty figures had combined their wealth to purchase it. They had even pawned a large number of rare treasures to gather the amount. Only then did they obtain the cosmos stone. In the end, this cosmos stone was refined by mighty figures for thousands of years and turned into a cosmos treasure. It was known as the world's top great Tao sacred weapon. Its value was second only to supreme treasures. Of course, in the process, the cosmos stone had also smelted other precious materials. Its value was almost inestimable. It could easily be measured in terms of 500,000 kilograms of chaos material. As for this thumb-sized cosmos stone, although it was contaminated, its value was extremely high. Its price had soared to 5,000 kilograms of chaos material. Su Yan's breathing was heavy. For Big Brother Prehistoric to pay attention to it, this small cosmos stone was probably not enough. In that case, it was very likely that there was another universe within the universe stone. Su Yan directly called out a price of 5,000 kilograms of primordial materials, which left many cultivators speechless. One had to know that the guests in this private room had already spent a lot of primordial materials. Su Yan had already spent 30,000 kilograms of primal chaos treasured material. Now, someone else was bidding for it. The other party's wealth was truly astonishing. 11,000 kilograms of primordial chaos material. A Grandmaster Artificer said through gritted teeth. He was ready to take a gamble and bet that it was a perfect Qianquan stone. 12,000 kilograms of primordial chaos material. Su Yan's expression did not change. If it was something that the prehistoric Big Brother was interested in, even if he had to go bankrupt, Su Yan would still obtain it. 12,500 kilograms of chaos material. The weapon refining Great Grandmaster said with a pained expression, but it was obvious that the price had reached its limit, and he didn't have enough money to continue bidding. In the end, Su Yan spent 13,000 caddies of primordial chaos treasures and forced the weapon refinement Grandmaster to retreat with a confident tone, successfully obtaining the treasure. I say, Bamboo Moon, just who is he? Zhu Yongjia's heart was heavy. Could it be that Bamboo Moon had some faction supporting her from behind? He had previously tried to inquire about Su Yan, But the great Dao auction house had refused to say a word about Su Yan's identity. It was obvious that they had been instructed by their superiors. "What does that have to do with you?" Bamboo Moon's clothes fluttered in the wind, and her snow-white body was bathed in the moonlight and starlight. She was as radiant as a pearl, untainted by the mortal world. Her bright eyes also glanced at Su Yan's private room, causing ripples in Bamboo Moon's heart. Could it be him? She knew that Su Yan had extorted a large amount of resources from the Divine Firmament sect at God Burial Mountain. However, these resources were likely limited. If Su Yan continued spending like this, he had probably emptied them all. Furthermore, why would Su Yan buy a Qianquan stone for no reason? Bamboo Moon's heart was also pounding. She wasn't sure of Su Yan's identity. As for the Star Moon fruit, it seemed especially heavy in her hands. She wouldn't take away the Star Moon fruit for no reason. Zhu Yongjia's face was gloomy. This woman had really become something. The auction continued. It would be very difficult for Su Yan to continue competing. His wealth was limited, and as long as it wasn't too tempting, he wouldn't participate. Now, he could only wait for the results of the yin-yang grass auction. This auction continued for an entire night. When the next day arrived, the atmosphere in the auction house became even more lively. This was because all sorts of great treasures appeared one after another. Each treasure would be auctioned off for as long as a cup of tea's worth of time. Yin-yang grass. When this item appeared on the stage, many old freaks were shocked. Su Yan also perked up. "That's right, it is the yin-yang grass," King Kongpa solemnly said. "This item has been extinct for a very long time. In the legends, the yin-yang grass can improve one's cultivation aptitude. It can even be used as medicine to prolong one's life. It is especially useful for those who are about to die." The yin-yang grass was a medicinal ingredient that only existed in legends. Even in the vast primal chaos ruins, it was nearly impossible to find. It had been extinct for a very long time. This caused many old freaks with withered lifespans to be unable to sit still. Although this item only existed in legends, it was clearly recorded in ancient texts that it could indeed prolong one's life energy and extend one's lifespan. As for the auction of the yin-yang grass, Su Yan was truly dumbfounded. He really didn't expect the yin-yang grass to be so expensive. It was just two ordinary-looking herbs, but the price had soared to 3,000 kilograms of chaos treasure material. Almost all of them had been auctioned by old monsters whose lifespans had withered. When King Kongpa threw out the second set of yin-yang grass, many old freaks who failed in the bidding were overjoyed and madly bid for it. When the third set of yin-yang grass was brought out, the experts of the ancestral hall who had gathered here had gloomy expressions. Zhu Yangbua coldly said, "Could it be that someone has discovered where the yin-yang grass grows? This item has been secretly controlled by the ancestral hall for a very long time. I didn't expect 3 sets of yin-yang grass to appear in this auction." The third set. It was directly bought by the ancestral hall. However, when the fourth set appeared, the experts of the ancestral hall were both surprised and overjoyed. After all, they needed the yin-yang grass. It was a necessary item to refine the little divine king pill. But where did the person who took out the yin-yang grass dig out such a large amount of yin-yang grass? Su Yan was overjoyed because he still had a large amount of yin-yang grass on him. If he really took them all out, the price would be too frightening. Who took out so much yin-yang grass? Won't they be rich? They probably got lucky and found the place where the yin-yang grass grows. Damn it, why don't I have such luck? Sigh. Some people were envious, jealous, and hateful. The combination of such wealth was too shocking. Especially when the last set was brought out, the price almost soared to 9,000 jin of chaos treasured materials. In short, Su Yan had obtained 50,000 jin of chaos treasured materials during the auction. This made Su Yan's heart beat wildly. If he took them all out and sold them, he would definitely be qualified to compete for the final item. Calm down, calm down. I'll keep the yin-yang grass. It might be of great use in the future. Every stalk of yin-yang grass is one less stalk. Su Yen took a deep breath and continued to pay attention to the auction items. Next, he prepared to buy some of the treasures he needed. As expected, after a few rounds, the next auction item attracted Su Yan's attention. It was a medicinal field. It was brightly colored and overflowing with light. The medicinal field floated in the void, and a rich medicinal fragrance lingered. Although the medicinal field only had a radius of 1 zhang, it automatically absorbed the energy in the void and nourished the soil. Void medicinal field. Many alchemists were pleasantly surprised. This was an extremely rare medicinal field that could be carried around. It could even absorb the energy essence of heaven and earth on its own. Moreover, there were some old antiques who smelled a wisp of aura that made them feel invigorated from the medicinal fragrance of the medicinal field. They were instantly shocked. This was an extraordinary item that had been planted before. This is indeed a void medicinal field. Moreover, a void medicinal field that had once been planted with divine medicine. When these words were spoken, the whole place was instantly stirred. A medicinal field that had once been planted with divine medicine would be tainted with the aura of divine medicine. If other precious medicines were planted, they would definitely be nourished by the aura of divine medicine and undergo a transformation. The price of this item was very expensive, especially when it could also refine the void medicinal field and extract the aura of divine medicine to prolong one's life. Su Yen decisively bid for the void medicinal field with 4,000 caddies of chaotic precious materials. He was prepared to plant the scarlet flame coral and other natural treasures in the void medicinal field. After all, Su Yen didn't need to refine these special natural treasures. He might as well plant them in the medicinal field. The entire auction continued for another day. Su Yen spent another 20,000 caddies of chaotic precious materials and obtained 5 natural treasures. He calculated the wealth he had. He had a lot of miscellaneous items on him. In the past, he had harvested a lot from the chaotic divine mountain. However, these things weren't chaotic precious materials. Su Yen had the maidservant waiting outside the door sell all these resources to the great Dao auction house. His wealth once again soared to more than 50,000 caddies of chaotic precious materials. There's really no end to spending money like this. No matter how much money I have, I can't continue spending like this. The great Dao auction house is really a treasure bowl. The items being auctioned in this kind of auction are also ridiculously expensive. Su Yen smiled bitterly. The auction house was still going on. The items were getting more and more expensive. When an elixir was taken out, the crowd erupted and looked like they were going to fight for it. Su Yen also bid decisively because this item was very important to him. An elixir, and a fake 8th grade one at that. It was almost the lowest grade of 8th grade elixir. Even a half-step Almighty would stand out to compete for it. The Resurrection Elixir. Although it's a 7th grade peak elixir, it can be considered a fake 8th grade elixir. Its value is probably very frightening. He didn't know which alchemy grandmaster had created this elixir. This elixir required some divine medicine's qi of origin to be refined. There was only one effect. Even if one was seriously injured, they could rely on this elixir to get up. Even if the divine king was torn apart, he could still be revived with the resurrection elixir. One could imagine how frightening the medicinal properties of this elixir were. It was equivalent to having a portion of the divine medicine. 20,000 kilograms of chaotic treasured materials. Su Yen shouted a sky-high price and successfully obtained the elixir. Many people trembled. This rich man's transaction was frightening. Was this close to 50,000 kilograms of chaotic treasured materials? Even in the past super auctions held by the Grand Avenue Auction House, there were very few private rooms that sold more than 100,000 kilograms. 100,000 kilograms was enough to shock even the peak races. People began to suspect the true identity of the person in the private room. His background was probably extraordinary. Buy it. No matter how many things you buy, they'll all be mine in the end. A pair of malicious eyes stared at Su Yan's private room. Han Weiran had sneaked in again. She had spent a lot of money to get Su Yan's portrait. Hong Kong immediately recognized that this was a fake Su Yan. Han Weiran smiled sinisterly. Although the Grand Avenue City prohibited violence, she had a way to make Su Yan spit out everything he had bought. At this moment, a vast aura of gods and demons filled the entire place in an instant. Everyone's breathing became heavy. They felt as if a mountain of gods and demons was pressing down on their bodies. It was extremely difficult to resist. On the auction stage, a bronze puppet appeared. It was tall and large, and its aura was icy cold and ancient. It innately emitted the terrifying pressure of a fiend god. It was like a living creature that was suffused with the mysterious light of purgatory, and it suppressed all life. A battle puppet? Su Yan stared at the bronze puppet and paid close attention. The prehistoric Big Brother stood up, which was rare. His gaze scanned the bronze puppet as if he was admiring a work of art. He said, "A work of the gods. There's more at night." 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 955. Su Yan slapped his thigh. Was there even a need to say anything? Even if he had to sell everything he had, he would buy it. It was something that had attracted the attention of the prehistoric Big Brother. It was a work of the gods. This battle puppet attracted the attention of many powerhouses. First of all, its aura was ancient enough that it was difficult to estimate the age of its origin. This puppet's bronze body was suffused with terrifying beams of light, exuding a heavy pressure. It had the heaviness of metal and also the divinity and demonic energy of a living being. In short, it was extremely astonishing. This puppet was tall and large. Its ancient body shimmered with strange metallic patterns, but no clues could be seen. It was unknown where this ancient object had been unearthed. But a divine king whispered, looking at the strength of this puppet, it should be at the divine king realm. But why would such a treasure be placed in this segment of the auction? Everyone knew that the final item was about to be auctioned off. Then, the treasures being auctioned off at this stage were all rare and precious treasures. It was clear that this puppet didn't have the qualifications to be placed in this segment. Although the aura released by the puppet had energy fluctuations at the level of the Divine King, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the puppet was damaged and that it wasn't a complete battle puppet. Su Yan believed that this wasn't the original appearance of the puppet. It was so mysterious that even the appraisal grandmasters of the Great Tao Auction House had noticed it. Just from the prehistoric Big Brother's words of "a work of the gods," one could see how complex and profound the forging process of this puppet was. Of course, the appraisal grandmasters of the Universe Stone Auction House had also made a mistake in their judgment. But this was different. Universe Stone was a rare material that was second only to supreme treasures. Wanting to see through the universe hidden within Universe Stone was far too difficult. But this puppet was different. The prehistoric Big Brother had probably seen through the puppet's origins with a single glance. And at this time, a young woman walked up from the auction stage. From her aura, she should be in the domain of the Great Tao realm. But what this woman did next left many young people stunned. First, she walked in front of the puppet and did something astonishing. She directly crashed into the puppet. The humanoid puppet seemed to be real and illusory. The woman crashed into the puppet and fused together. This scene was shocking, causing a great commotion throughout the entire venue. This was because the woman's aura had changed. In that instant, an ancient and terrifying demonic aura was released. She transformed into a tall divine king powerhouse, releasing vast fluctuations of the divine king. Every movement of the woman made was filled with the aura of the divine king, suppressing all life. Heavens! The great Tao to divine kings. This woman had the divine king's aura to fuse. I must buy it. 2. B. If they could buy it and even decipher its mysteries, it would be the same as grasping a great treasure. Fellow Taoists, the origin of this battle puppet is untraceable. King Kongpa laughed loudly. I've confirmed that as long as you fuse with it, you'll have the strength of the Divine King. Although there are some flaws, you'll indeed have the strength of the Divine King. Moreover, if you can research its forging process, it'll be a great event that will shake the universe. Although that was what he said, how could the forging process be so easily researched? But in any case, the experts present attached great importance to it. The youngsters in particular were eager to make a move. Possessing the strength of the Divine King ahead of time was a fatal attraction to them. 5,000 gene of primal chaos material. A voice exploded, spreading throughout the entire venue and causing a commotion. The one who spoke was Xing Tianzhan. He possessed the indestructible body. If he could obtain the battle puppet, it would greatly increase his combat strength. Even if the immortal graveyard opened ahead of time, he would still have the strength to contend. 15,000 gene. Another overlord of the younger generation stood out, his aura iron-blooded and domineering. The Iron Blood King spoke, his tone faintly revealing his determination to obtain it. Su Yan's face sank, feeling the pressure. This item would inevitably cause a struggle between all parties, but the value of the battle puppet would not be limited to its present state. It would certainly have astonishing abilities that had yet to be revealed. He even felt that since the prehistoric Big Brother had spoken, the value of this item would certainly surpass the final item. Then its value would be immeasurable. It would easily be measured in units of 100,000 gene, or even over 1,000,000 gene. It was truly a bit frightening. 20,000 gene of primal chaos material. Zhu Yongjia stood out. He was a peerless genius of the Sky Bamboo lineage, and was even a descendant of Zhu Yuanqing. He, Zhu Yongjia, grasped the astonishing resources of the Sky Bamboo lineage and directly shouted out a sky-high price of 20,000 gene of primal chaos material. Crazy, these young experts have really gone crazy. The immortal graveyard is about to open, but the sagely battle god and the others don't have enough battle strength. If the immortal graveyard really opens in these few years, just think about it and you'll know the value of the battle puppet. Moreover, the experts of their clans will surely do everything possible to repair the battle puppet to a flawless state. That's right, the price of this puppet will likely be ridiculously expensive. It's very likely that it will exceed 50,000 gene of primal chaos material. This speculation gained the approval of many people. Immediately after, a young overlord of the demonic Tao spoke. The northern demonic beast suddenly stood up, his divine might overflowing as he once again raised the price. 30,000 gene of primal chaos material. Sun Dome also stood up, towering in the midst of the gold. He bathed in the divine splendor of the 9 heavens, his divine might awe-inspiring. My goodness, the leading figures of these peak clans are truly crazy. With their qualifications, it's definitely not difficult for them to use primal chaos material below 50,000 gene. Moreover, this matter is of great importance. They're all a group of princes who possess shocking wealth. We can't afford to compete with them at all. It seems like this item will fall into the hands of the young overlords. Let's see who's willing to throw out a huge sum of money. The entire auction was in an uproar. Su Yan's face darkened. He didn't expect that this item would attract so much attention. The price had soared to 40,000 gene of primal chaos material. 50,000 gene of primal chaos material. Su Yan's words were shocking, causing everyone to tremble in fear. This was the most valuable treasure since the start of the auction. Moreover, before this, Su Yan had also spent a huge sum of money to purchase a resurrection pill. The atmosphere in the auction was stifling because the price was too outrageous. Sun Dome and the others' expressions were uncertain as they continued to raise the price. Was it worth it or not? After all, 50,000 gene of primal chaos material was truly a frightening price. Even if they could continue to raise the price, but they still had to weigh the gains and losses. Su Yen was also a little nervous. If someone continued to raise the price, he would definitely chase after them. It might even be difficult to guarantee that. Some experts had seen the clues of the battle puppet. If the price continued to soar, it might attract the attention of others. After all, this auction was overseen by a mighty figure. This old man will also raise the price. Suddenly, the old grandmaster of the Han family stood up and said in a relatively calm tone, 60,000 gene of primal chaos material. This old man. Su Yan's face darkened. This old thing might have wanted to stop him for a long time. Now that he had jumped out, the timing was really good. Su Yan was indeed determined to obtain the battle puppet. I'd like to see how much he's worth. Han Weiron's expression was cold. She wore a long red dress, and her face was cold and noble. She looked down at Su Yan's private room and said, "A brat called Su Yan. I'd like to see how great his background is." The old grandmaster of the Han family also smiled coldly. He didn't expect that the young man in the private room was the old wine drinker, the mysterious man called Su Yan. In fact, this person had helped Bamboo Moon before. He was very clear about the relationship between Bamboo Moon and Su Yan. The Heavenly Momentum chapter was given to Su Yan by Bamboo Moon. The two had such a close relationship, so he might really be Su Yan. Otherwise, why would he spend more than 10,000 gene of primal chaos material to win the Star Moon fruit for Bamboo Moon? If it's really him, this old man will definitely make him suffer. The old grandmaster of the Han family took a deep breath. He also wanted to obtain the battle puppet. The Han family was the founder of the occult sect. The old grandmaster of the Han family also wanted to study the forging process of the battle puppet. 70,000 gene of primal chaos material. Su Yan's voice was loud and clear. It was simple and direct, pushing the atmosphere of the audience to the peak. Many old monsters frowned and kept looking at the battle puppet. The price was too outrageous. The two of them couldn't spend such a huge amount of money just for battle chi, right? After all, this price was also a terrifying amount of wealth for the Peak clans. It seems like fellow Taoist is determined to get the battle puppet. The old grandmaster of the Han family said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist's wealth is really astonishing. Little friend, if you want it, then increase the price." "Why are you talking nonsense?" Su Yan coldly snorted. This sentence made the old grandmaster of the Han family turn green. Han Weiran even felt her liver and stomach ache. Before, Su Yan had called her little brother, and now he called the old grandmaster of the Han family little friend. Those who didn't know would think that Su Yan was a living fossil that had lived through the epoch of the universe. "You really have a lot of courage." The old grandmaster of the Han family's face was gloomy to the extreme. He coldly shouted, "Since you don't want to give it up, I don't want to give it up either. In order to avoid hurting our friendship, I think I'll increase the price and buy it. After the auction is over, you and I will have a bet to decide who gets the battle puppet. How about it?" "What do you want to bet on?" Su Yan curiously asked. "You can bet whatever you want, but the wager is the battle puppet. The loser will have to pay the auction price of the battle puppet," the old grandmaster of the Han family said coldly. "The battle puppet is only the wager." "You sure talk big." Su Yan angrily laughed. "Then why don't we just bet our lives?" The audience was in an uproar. Betting their lives? Was this a battle of life and death? "You sure talk big." "Betting your life, hee." The old grandmaster of the Han family laughed sinisterly. "You can bet whatever you want. My Han family will definitely accompany you to the end." "How much is your life worth?" Su Yan sneered. "How about this, I'll buy the battle puppet with more money, and your Han family will take out the Heavenly Force chapter to bet with me. How about that?" The old grandmaster of the Han family clenched his fists. He was almost certain that this person was Su Yen, asking for the Heavenly Force chapter as soon as he opened his mouth. The battle puppet and my family's Heavenly Force chapter? The old grandmaster of the Han family calmed himself down and shouted, "I think you're thinking too much. If you really lose, leave your life and the battle puppet behind. This way, my family can bet with you. What do you think? You want my life? Ha ha, what a good Han family. Why would I be afraid of you? Let's bet then. You can choose the location." Su Yen coldly shouted. This was exactly what he wanted. He was not afraid of anyone in the same generation. So what if he was at the peak of the heavenly god realm? Su Yen was not afraid at all. In short, once things got out of hand, the Han family would definitely make a move on Su Yen. At that time, how could his big brother stand by and watch? The audience was in an uproar. How did it turn into a bet? Who was this mysterious person? The old grandmaster of the Han family clearly wanted to kill him. But Su Yen wanted to tear the whole Han family into pieces. With his big brother by his side, what was there to be afraid of? Added a chapter today. I owe everyone 20 chapters for the new year. Now there are 19 chapters left. I'll try to finish them within a month. 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 956. The Han family's old master wasn't surprised by Su Yan's confidence. He knew that people like Su Yan had the belief that he was invincible in his generation and wouldn't back down just because of a battle. People like them had long cultivated the confidence to sweep through all their peers. Although the Han family's old master wasn't sure whether or not this person was Su Yan. However, when Han Weiran stood up, it also meant that Qiu Ming stood up. If the other party really had a great background, if the person had a strong background, Qiu Ming's identity would be able to handle it. However, if they won the bet and the other party was really Su Yan, then their Han family would obtain the terrain chapter that they had always dreamed of. This would be enough to change the fate of the entire Han family in the future development of the entire Han family. Anyways, the Han family wanted to immediately start this battle and Su Yan couldn't wait to start it too. Very good. The Han family's old master said coldly, but we agreed that only you can go up. My family naturally won't bully the weak. My family's Han Weiran will go up and fight you. The Han family's old master couldn't help but give off a terrifying aura. Everyone only knew that the Han family had a master, but they didn't know how strong Han Weiran was. How could a woman who had such a close relationship with Qiu Ming be a flower vase? Furthermore, Han Weiran had been by Qiu Ming's side for many years and had received much of Qiu Ming's true teachings. Also, Han Weiran was a peak heaven god realm expert. How could she lose to a cultivator who had just entered the heaven god realm? Anyways, the Han family had absolute confidence in Han Weiran's attack. Jia Jia. Han Weiran's gloomy and cold eyes stared at Su Yan's private room. She really didn't believe that this brat was so strong that he could block her attacks. She, Han Weiran, had already begun to accumulate the foundation of the Divine King realm. Even if he was really Su Yan, Han Weiran still had the confidence to kill him. Everyone present was stunned. Things were progressing too quickly, and many people had yet to react. Someone asked suspiciously, "Is the Han family crazy? Take out the Heavenly Momentum chapter and bet with an unknown person?" Just Han Weiran alone is not enough to make the Han family do such a crazy thing. There must be some other special reason, or the Han family must have figured out the identity of this person. When the time comes, the battle will definitely be exciting enough. I will definitely go and watch. All of the cultivators present began to discuss spiritedly. After all, the stakes were a bit too high. An absurdly valuable battle puppet and the Han family's heavenly chapter. This was a heaven-shaking gamble, and it was even a gamble of one's life. To Su Yan, the battle puppet was a must-have, and he couldn't afford the slightest mistake. Even if he had to pay a certain price, he had to obtain it. Of course, the price was particularly frightening. Given that it was 70,000 kilograms of primordial chaos material, Su Yan had to pay a sufficient amount of wealth before he could take the combat puppet away from the Grand Avenue auction house. Name a place. Su Yan's tone was cold. With Big Brother Prehistoric by his side, what was there to be afraid of? No matter how big the matter was, Big Brother Prehistoric was here to hold the fort. In 10 days, the location will be at the city of the Grand Avenue. The Han family's old Grandmaster became more and more confident. He said coldly, "When the Grand Avenue battle platform is activated, I will have to trouble the experts of the Taoist Temple to supervise and ensure fairness." Some of the older experts were speechless. Once the Grand Avenue battle platform was activated, no one would dare to disturb it. Was the Han family so confident? Were they really confident that they could take down the mysterious man? King Kongpo was dumbfounded. He wanted to say, "Old Grandmaster of the Han family, have you figured out the situation? Have you investigated Su Yan's background? Are you going to bet with him just like that?" He even wanted to activate the Grand Avenue battle platform. Su Yan had a powerful expert by his side. Although the Han family was frightening and had a shocking background, they didn't have any powerful experts at all. Of course, there were no less than 2 or 3 half-almighties in the clan. In addition, the clan was proficient in secret technique. Overall, they weren't afraid of powerful experts. King Kongpa wanted to say, "If the Han family really wins, they will have angered a powerful expert. Is this a good deal? Since you have agreed, the Taoist Temple can send experts to supervise." King Kongpa said helplessly, "In 10 days, on the Grand Avenue battle platform, both of you should prepare the items for the bet." "Haha, in 10 days, the Tianshi chapter will be brought to the city of the Grand Avenue. Don't worry about that." The Han family's old Grandmaster laughed. He looked as if he had Su Yan in the bag. He was more and more certain that his guess was correct. "Okay, the human-shaped puppet will also be brought to the Grand Avenue battle platform as promised." Su Yan snorted coldly. Many gazes were fixed on the box where Su Yan was. In 10 days they would know who this person was. Such an astonishingly wealthy expert was definitely not someone to be trifled with. However, Han Weiran was also close to Qiuming. In that case, in 10 days, the city of the Grand Avenue would be especially lively. There would be many experts coming to watch the battle. "Okay, let's move on to the next round of bidding," King Kongpa said in a serious tone. "We have prepared several treasures. They are all rare items to be auctioned. Everyone, get ready." From this moment on, everyone in the field watched with wide eyes. The bidding for the suppressed items was about to begin. It was said that there were 3 items for the finale. They knew about the celestial tree, but they didn't know what the other 2 treasures were. A terrifying aura burst out from the silent auction hall all of a sudden. What extravagance! Su Yan was shocked. It was a battle suit that carried a terrifying aura. It was as if wearing the battle suit could transform into an invincible king. Moreover, the entire battle suit was interwoven with mysterious heavenly marks of the Great Path. When the battle suit was slightly revived, it was as if a terrifying creature had returned from a deep slumber. It released billions of layers of light of order, dazzling and overflowing. Battle suit of a mighty figure. Everyone present trembled. This was a battle suit of a mighty figure, and it was even a flawless one. It had also been refined by a mighty figure. This battle suit was as if the universe was pressing down on it, causing even the divine king to gasp for breath. The old experts of the various clans were shocked. No one expected that the auction would bring out a battle suit of a mighty figure for auction. This extravagance was too frightening. Every battle suit of a mighty figure was a rare item. Moreover, not all mighty figures had one. After all, the materials needed to refine a mighty figure's battle suit were extremely precious. Moreover, just refining it required a great deal of effort from a mighty figure. Its value was difficult to estimate, so it was directly auctioned without a reserve price. Motherf***Ker, if I had a battle suit of a mighty figure, Even the Divine King would find it hard to touch me. Su Yen was envious. However, this item was destined to not belong to him. He couldn't afford it at all. The bidding for the battle suit had just begun. In almost an instant, the price soared to 50,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. The price even began to rise at a terrifying speed. 120,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. A peak Divine King was envious. He roared at the top of his lungs. He would buy it even if he had to go bankrupt. Once he had a battle suit of a mighty figure, he would be able to venture into the dangerous areas of the primal chaos ruins. But to buy a battle suit of a mighty figure with 120,000 kilograms of primal chaos material? That was a complete fool's dream. 150,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. The price was still rising. 99% of the cultivators present were truly in despair. In such a short period of time, the price had soared to 150,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. The number of powerful cultivators competing for the battle suit had also decreased greatly. Those who could still bid now were the wealthiest clans or peak clans. 200,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. The vice leader of the Nine Yang sect shouted a terrifying price. Although the Nine Yang sect also had battle suits of a mighty figure, no one would complain about having too many of them. In the future, when the Sun Dome would be invincible and dominate the world, the battle suit of a mighty figure would greatly reduce the danger he faced. This item was specially auctioned for the Sun Dome. They hoped that they could successfully obtain it. 210,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. The North Fey tribe also made a strong bid. For the North Fey and for him to stand at the peak of the world in the future, they were willing to pay a heavy price. Su Yen discovered a problem. The Ancestral Hall, the Sky Bamboo, the Dao Hall, and the Dark Underworld tribe. These terrifying clans were not interested in the battle suit. This meant that their clans had accumulated a shocking amount of wealth. They probably had more than a dozen great Dao divine weapons. Originally, the sagely battle god tribe also wanted to participate in the battle. Unfortunately, their tribe's wealth was not enough. Even the Han family gave up. This item was too valuable. Ordinary people could not afford it. 280,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. Another round of bids was made. Many people were dizzy and could not extricate themselves from the shock. When King Kongpa shouted sold, they finally came back to their senses. The North Fey tribe had successfully obtained the battle suit of a mighty figure. The North Fey laughed heartily. In the future, his path to invincibility would have one more protective supreme treasure, the battle suit of a mighty figure. Damn, this North Fey is arrogant again. Brother Baokai will have a hard time killing him. Motherf * Ker, 280,000 kilograms of primal chaos material. The North Fey tribe is really generous. They must have used the accumulated wealth of the Fey area. In a private room, a group of aggressive young men and women were discussing. They were indignant. At the same time, they looked at an extremely fierce leader. Don't panic. The little blood lion looked mighty. Compared to many years ago, he had accumulated a vast source of blood essence. Behind him, there was a vague image of a golden lion looming. It was as if a part of the universe was pressing down on this place. He snorted and said, "We have been adventuring in the Forbidden Zone, experiencing life and death situations. Although I have come out early, Baokai and the other two are still going through a more terrifying experience. When they come out and meet up with Su Yen, they will definitely be able to kill this dog." The blood lion still felt a lingering fear when he thought of that terrifying forbidden area. 3 of their companions had died in the trial of life and death. Only 7 of them were left. The blood lion and the others had left the mountain early because their potential had been exhausted. However, the 4 of them had also transformed. In their bodies, wisps of ancient and terrifying bloodline power were released. They all had astonishing combat power of their generation. That's right. The 4 top powerhouses nodded. They were afraid that the great characters guarding the Milky Way galaxy didn't know that when the Chaos Ruins opened, the old leader had used his heaven-defying combat strength to open up a hidden tunnel that ran through the universe. He had transported the 10 strongest young powerhouses of the Burial Realm to a dangerous forbidden area in the Chaos Ruins. The old leader had accidentally discovered this dangerous forbidden area. This was a terrifying mountain, a world of gods and demons, a world of chaos. The broken war flag was dug out by the old leader from this mountain. Baokai and the others had undergone cruel training on this dangerous mountain. There were miserable howls all day long. Even Yuan, who had always been calm, sometimes cried out in pain. However, he was slowly transforming. The essence blood in his body was surging like a golden sea. In the cruel training, he had also gained a lot. He had dug out the celestial demon liquid, the top sacred medicine, and the earth juice that had been deposited for millions of years. The one who had changed the most was Yuan. He had gone through the barbaric mountain, which was also the orthodoxy of the barbaric mountain that the prehistoric Big Brother had personally explored. He had a kind of domineering power. He was transforming day by day. He was like a slumbering war god that had returned. This was a kind of peerless power that could pierce through the heavens. His back faintly transformed into a giant golden bow that could shoot the sun in the sky. The explosive power was actually so terrifying. I'm about to break through to the heavenly deity realm. I wonder how Brother Su Yen is doing now. This damned forbidden area, how long will it take to trap us? Tenser's voice was loud. His supreme body was like an immeasurable furnace that was burning. His entire body emitted immeasurable divine light and surged with world-piercing wave. His divine might suppressed the heaven and earth. Roar! A low roar exploded. Tenser and the others were already used to it. This was the snores of the Baokai. The sound of its snoring shook the heavens. Its breathing was really like the roar of a big tiger here. It had been sleeping for almost half a year. Its fat body was like a big mountain of meat, spitting out vast amounts of essence energy. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 957. The second item of the auction was naturally the Heavenly Deity Tree. The auction for the Celestial Tree was interesting. Back then, the young overlords of various races were fighting in the universe mystic realm. In the end, the Tao Hall stepped in to resolve the conflict and even distributed the wealth of the Celestial Tree to all the young overlords. Of course, the sagely battle god and the others couldn't obtain it because they had chosen the Celestial Fruit. Although there were more than 20 young elites competing for the Celestial Tree, the price of the Celestial Tree was extremely terrifying. The various young overlords also received a large sum of money. This is the Celestial Tree. Su Yan's eyes landed on an ancient tree that was as vigorous as a dragon. Suddenly, Su Yan felt as though he had seen the medium of the Great Tao. This celestial tree was like a purple ancient tree formed by the combination of Great Tao. It was filled with boundless celestial fluctuations. The most valuable part of this ancient tree was the celestial fruit it bore. Of course, there were also ruthless people who chopped down the celestial tree and forged it into a great Tao weapon. In the future, it would definitely be a great Tao sacred weapon. However, there weren't many ruthless people who were willing to chop down this tree. This item was extremely important to a tribe. After all, every 33,000 years, the Empyrean god fruit would bear fruit. Each fruit represented one Empyrean god. Although there were only 12 fruits, 12 Empyrean gods were born every 30,000 years. This was a great boost to a peak clan. However, this item would need to accumulate over time to slowly display its value. When the auction started, the scene was extremely terrifying. Even if the tribes from the Tao Hall participated, its value wouldn't be any less than the almighty battle armor. The value of the strongest rare treasures is too frightening. I wonder how strong the final item will be? Su Yen was amazed. In fact, if a tribe had more than a dozen celestial trees, wouldn't that be amazing? However, this was completely a fool's dream. Even if a tribe really had one, the other tribes would still covet their tribe's celestial tree. When Zhu Yongjia saw that the heavenly deity tree was about to break through the 300,000 threshold, he shouted angrily, "Damn it! If I wasn't chasing after Su Yen, I would have had a share in the auction for the heavenly deity tree. I would have lost more than 5,000 kilograms of chaos treasure for no reason." Actually, Zhu Yongjia's words were deliberately said for Bamboo Moon to hear. He deliberately wanted to disgust Bamboo Moon. Originally, Zhu Yongjia wanted to see Bamboo Moon's face change and even reprimand him. Zhu Yongjia seized the opportunity to quarrel with her and see if he could find out the identity of the mysterious person in the box. However, he was disappointed. Zhu Yu's expression was as usual. She was as graceful and elegant as ever. She was like a classical beauty with peerless charm. She was almost certain that the mysterious man in the room should be Su Yen. The entire auction venue was extremely lively. The auction was still going on, and the price was nearing the 350,000 threshold. The tribes that were bidding had decreased by a lot. In the end, the item was won by the Tao Temple, which made many people gasp. However, they were no exception. The Tao Temple was a big family with many mystic realms in their hand. The resources of the entire Tao Temple were immeasurable. Now that the Tao Temple had spent a lot of money to win the heavenly deity tree, there was no doubt that they had another huge foundation. The final auction has begun. It's said that the Tao Temple prepared the final item for the finale. It was originally going to be auctioned off in the super auction. That's incredible! Such an item would attract the attention of powerful figures. I wonder what treasure the Tao Temple prepared this time. In the auction venue, everyone's eyes were focused on King Kampa. At this moment, he was also solemn. It was obvious that this was the finale item. The entire Tao Temple paid special attention to this item. Next, let's begin the auction for the final item. King Kampa took a deep breath and took out a jade box. When the jade box was opened, an earthy yellow stone appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Many people were at a loss. Only a very small number of people were shocked. This is, especially the old grandmaster of the Han family. His sharp eyes saw that the earthy yellow stone was extraordinary. His hunched body trembled. What treasure is this? Su Yen was shocked. He stared at the earthy yellow stone. Su Yen was proficient in mystical arts and knew the layout of mountains and rivers like the back of his hand. This earthen yellow stone looked ordinary, but on the stone, there were natural patterns inscribed on it. Upon closer inspection, these patterns were really connected. The great path of heaven was entrenched on the stone, and it was filled with an indescribable aura. Upon closer inspection, this earthy yellow stone seemed to have turned into a vast world. It was intertwined with the endless light of the great path of order, and it was filled with a peerless power that could suppress the sea of stars. The old grandmaster of the Han family was even more shocked. His body trembled uncontrollably as he exclaimed, "Could this be the Universe Stone? The legendary Universe Stone?" His words shocked everyone present. Everyone was flabbergasted. The Universe Stone was known as the world's top treasure material. Among the supreme treasures, it was known as the world's top treasure material. It could be said to be the universe's most terrifying immortal treasure. In the legends, a complete Universe Stone, if it fell into the hands of a supreme being, would become a complete universe treasure after some refinement. It was equivalent to controlling a universe dimension. It was said that this supreme treasure could compete with supreme treasures. Of course, this was only a legend. No one had ever heard of any of the major forces controlling a complete Universe Stone. Universe Stone, Su Yen was speechless. He had some understanding of this item. It was the world's top treasure material. It was said that it required the universe to undergo a long period of gestation. Could easily take millions of years or even longer. This item was equivalent to the universe's carrier. Universe stones had appeared before, but there were no complete universe stones. These universe stones were dug out from incomplete universes. The price was sky-high, and it would cause the supreme beings to compete with each other. From this, it could be seen how expensive the incomplete universes were. There were many strange items within, and they were treasures that even the supreme beings would covet. Everyone, quiet down. In the chaotic scene, King Kongpa's loud voice suppressed the entire audience. He stood on the auction stage and said excitedly, "This is indeed a universe stone. An esteemed guest entrusted it to our Grand Avenue auction house. It is a supreme treasure." After it was confirmed, the supreme beings of the major clans were all envious. They had to get this item. They had no use for it, but it would be of great use to the strongest of their clans. Although it is not complete, of course, no one knows what a complete universe stone looks like. Divine King Kong smiled and said, "However, if this cosmos stone were to be used with other supreme treasure materials to forge a supreme treasure, its value would be unimaginable. It might even be comparable to supreme treasures." Although he said this, if a furnace of supreme treasures was really used to forge a weapon, the price would be too frightening. This item, the bidding method, cannot be measured by chaos treasure materials. King Kongpa was silent for a moment. Then he said, "We will bid with all kinds of strange items. The owner of the universe stone is also here. Everyone, feel free to bid. A complete stock of divine medicine." At this moment, someone calmed down and shouted, "I will bid a complete stock of divine medicine." Dong dong. This sound caused the hearts of many to race. In short, the entire place was in an uproar. Someone directly took out a stock of divine medicine to trade for this small piece of universe stone. How expensive was this item? King Kongpa shook his head. Divine medicine was indeed extremely valuable, but it was not qualified to trade for universe stones. There were many divine medicines unearthed from the chaos ruins in the past, but universe stones, even after opening several incomplete universes, might not be able to get one. A supreme being's sacred weapon for killing, plus a supreme being's battle armor. A heavy voice exploded in the auction house, causing the experts' scalps to go numb. Someone from the ancestral hall stood out and shouted a terrifying price. 2 supreme beings were trading sacred weapons. How can universe stones be so valuable? Many people were shocked. Universe stones are valuable not only because they are the world's most supreme treasures. Someone said in a low voice, "Universe stones nurture a terrifying great Tao of the universe. This is a Tao fruit that even supreme beings want to comprehend, so its value is inestimable." In the end, those from the ancestral hall were disappointed. They had already raised the price to the limit. But it was obvious that the other party did not need a supreme being's sacred weapon. They reckoned that their origins were not small, so they could only use other types of treasures to trade. "I am willing to trade with an 8th grade imperishable golden pill." Someone said something shocking, causing the hearts of the younger generation to tremble. An 8th grade imperishable golden pill was a pill that only existed in legends. It was rumored that once this pill was refined, one could cultivate an imperishable body. Its price was ridiculously high, and it had almost never appeared in an auction. The sagely battle god was crazy with excitement. He did not expect someone to possess an imperishable golden pill. This item was very suitable for him, but its price was clearly not something the He clan could afford. "Congratulations, Tao friend. An 8th grade imperishable golden pill can be used as an alternative." The crowd turned pale. 2 supreme beings from 2 sects did not want a sacred weapon, but instead wanted an 8th grade imperishable golden pill? Wasn't this a little irrational? Su Yen was also thinking that if it was him, what would he choose? If an 8th-grade imperishable golden pill was refined in the Divine King's domain, it was said that the terrifying level of the body would be comparable to that of a supreme being. All in all, this item was fatally attractive to the younger generation. I have an ancient nirvana pill that can be reborn from the ashes. Its value is definitely not lower than the imperishable golden pill. My clan will trade with a supreme being's lifetime cultivation notes, his heavenly art's secret scriptures, and divine powers. I will trade with a connate spiritual root and dig it out from a universe secret realm. Although it hasn't matured yet, it already has the scale. If the owner of the universe stone is interested, you can come and observe it. Its lifespan is definitely not less than 400,000 years. Once matured, it will definitely be a top-tier divine medicine. The entire auction site was silent. At least a dozen mysterious cultivators were bidding in secret. Many people had never heard of the items that they were bidding for. The final bidding was truly too pretentious, leaving them flabbergasted. The Great Avenue Auction House was indeed a place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Some people even had the urge to rob the Great Avenue Auction House. There was one more chapter at night. Jiutian Divine Emperor. Chapter 958. The entire auction hall was abuzz with discussions about what the Cosmos Stone would be sold for, causing the experts present to discuss spiritedly. Once such an auction item was involved, even the Almighty wouldn't take out a treasure that would satisfy the other party. When dozens of rare treasures were called out, the owner of the Cosmos Stone was only partial towards the imperishable golden pellet and innate spiritual roots. The imperishable golden pellet is extremely attractive to the younger generation. I wonder if the other party will choose the imperishable golden pellet? I wonder who took out the Cosmos Stone. If the transaction is completed, then they'll really make a killing. Actually, the Cosmos Stone is only useful to almighty experts. On the contrary, it's completely useless to those below the almighty level. It's better to take it out to exchange for rare treasures. I feel that the innate spiritual roots aren't that competitive. Admittedly, the innate spiritual roots have the potential to become a top divine medicine and are extremely important to a tribe. However, it's not mature yet. It'll take at least 50,000 to 60,000 years to grow, and it'll even take a lot of resources to nurture it. Haha, do you know what a top divine medicine means? It's enough to invite an almighty to risk his life for them. This item is enough to extend the lifespan of an almighty. Its value is beyond your imagination. In the large auction hall, the experts were constantly discussing. Now, the owner of the Cosmos Stone was also at a loss as to what treasure to choose. Originally, everything was about to be settled, but who knew that a faintly discernible wisp of terrifying energy would surge over, causing the noisy auction hall to instantly become silent. Boom! The doors of the auction house were pushed open and a figure appeared. As he breathed, the void trembled and the space became illusory. It was as if his breathing suppressed the universe and covered the stars and moonlight in the sky. Chiu Ming! The hall was filled with cries of surprise. This person was extremely famous and was known as an absolute king of the younger generation. Even the divine king of the older generation would change his expression when talking about him. Since he came to the auction house at this time, he must have some ulterior motive. The arrival of an absolute king of a generation caused a heated discussion. Chiu Ming is indeed Chiu Ming. The auction is about to end, but he can actually enter at this time. Someone was speechless. At the entrance of the Grand Avenue auction house, a golden radiance shone resplendently as a heavy aura surged forth. This absolute king who lived in legends had his eyes fixed on the Cosmos Stone the moment he entered. It was obvious that he had come for the Cosmos Stone. At this moment, the cultivator who took out the indestructible golden pill paled on the spot. If Chiu Ming were to participate, then the outcome would be hard to say. After all, he represented a forbidden zone behind him. Once the contest for the Cosmos Stone began, it was very likely that he would snatch it away. Qiuming walked step by step into the auction house. His figure flickered in and out of existence as though he was walking through time and space, causing the young overlords to breathe heavily. When they faced Qiuming, they felt as though they were facing their clan's old ancestor. Qiuming's cultivation was getting stronger and stronger. It was said that he was about to step into the realm of the Almighties, and even the threshold of the half-step Almighties. It was not difficult for Qiuming at all. I bid 100 drops of universe source liquid in exchange for cosmos stones. Qiuming's calm voice sounded out. Every single syllable emitted a terrifying pressure that exploded in the venue of the Grand Avenue auction house, causing a huge commotion. Even the older generation turned pale with fright. In particular, the eyes of the various divine kings turned purple with envy. What kind of heaven-defying immortal treasure was the universe source liquid? But now, Qiuming directly took out 100 drops. Every drop of this thing was a rare supreme treasure that even the Almighties coveted. There were also many people who were suspicious. What was this universe source liquid? They didn't know. Su Yan clenched his fist. Indeed, it wasn't difficult for someone like Qiuming to obtain the universe source liquid. After all, he had the life-forbidden zone behind him. There was very little universe source liquid even among the peak races, but Qiuming still had a stockpile. Back progenitor, a whole lake of universe source liquid. Su Yan smiled bitterly in his heart. Although Su Yan had taken out some back then, he had handed it over to Yi Lingtian and the others. He didn't know if Bao Kai and the others had taken out the universe source liquid when they returned to Earth. After all, that incomplete cauldron was controlled by Bao Kai. If it recovered, it could certainly take away a large amount of universe source liquid. Su Yan thought that perhaps now, within the back progenitor, a group of divine kings of the buried realm race were secretly digesting the universe source liquid. Every year was very important to them. This matter was top secret among top secret. Not even the slightest bit of information could be leaked out. Once the news leaked out, the consequences would be severe. The buried realm race would become invincible. God knew how many old monsters would be entrenched outside the Milky Way galaxy, wanting to invade and take away the universe source liquid. After all, this thing was too precious in the end. It could make up for the shortcomings of a person's cultivation and even perfect the accumulation of a divine king's domain. Dozens of drops of this heaven-defying thing were already a terrifying amount of wealth. The owner of the universe stone said that if you can take out 150 drops, you can directly trade it. King Kongpa suppressed the shock in his heart and said directly. This made the owner of the innate spiritual root and the indestructible golden pill extremely angry. Damn it, why did it have to come when they were about to succeed? Wasn't this deliberately making things difficult for them? This Qiuming was really a troublemaker. However, they didn't have the universe source liquid at all, so they could only stare helplessly. 120 drops, this is my limit. Qiuming was silent for a moment and then spoke again. His words shocked some cultivators who knew nothing about the universe source liquid. What was the universe source liquid that dozens of drops were so precious that they could be traded for universe stones? Su Yan knew very well that not to mention 100 drops, even 20 drops were extremely important to the Divine King. It was enough to allow the weak Divine King to grow into a pinnacle powerhouse. Comparisons are odious. Iron Blood King cursed. When they stepped into the Divine King's realm, they would think of ways to get their hands on the universe source liquid. But Qiuming could take out more than 100 drops to trade for treasures. People didn't even think that he only had 100 drops. He definitely had some in stock. The universe source liquid is the energy essence bred by the universe. This thing is abundant in the incomplete universe, but it is also very rare. Every time it appears, it will trigger a great battle between the pinnacle. This is something that all almighty beings yearn to have. Even in an incomplete universe, you might not be able to dig out a few hundred drops of this thing. Sometimes, it's even pitifully small with only a few dozen drops. Someone explained to the cultivators who didn't know the preciousness of the universe source liquid, leaving them dumbfounded. The essence of the universe. No wonder it was so precious. Damn it. Our back progenitor has a lake. What kind of heaven-defying wealth is this? Can we buy the entire Great Tao City? Su Yan's eyes were red. He had underestimated the value of the universe source liquid. In fact, when Xiaohu learned that there was a lake of universe source liquid, he was really frightened. Even someone as strong as him lost his mind, let alone the divine king powerhouses present. Deal. King Kongpa finally shouted a deal, causing a huge commotion. There was no doubt that the value of the indestructible golden pellet was not even comparable to the universe source liquid. Was this thing more powerful than the indestructible golden pellet? In fact, it couldn't be said which was stronger or weaker. Both were rare things that were of great help to cultivation. However, the effect of the universe source liquid was more special. It was the essence of the universe, so it was especially precious. The bidding for the finale item ended just like that. It was even directly won by Qiu Ming with 120 drops of universe source liquid, leaving many people stunned. It ended just like that? This auction, King Kongpa wanted to take it out for auction. At the end of the auction, Qiu Ming said directly, "King Kongpa, wait a moment." Although King Kongpa was a little unhappy, he still gave face to Qiu Ming. He wanted to see what this guy wanted to do. Was he going to pretend to be a leader of the Tao Temple and announce something here? Didn't he know that there were almighty beings bidding in the auction? I heard that a humanoid puppet was auctioned before. I wonder which fellow Taoist bought it? Qiu Ming went straight to the point. At the same time, there was a trace of urgency in his heart. Originally, he was not interested in an auction that was not the standard of a super auction. However, when he heard that a humanoid puppet was being auctioned and could even fuse with it, Qiu Ming immediately paid attention to it. He had once looked up the ancient palace and knew that in historical times, there was an extremely terrifying forging technique known as the uncanny workmanship. It was a forging technique that had been lost for a long time. The uncanny workmanship was known as the most terrifying forging technique. It was a technique that surpassed the heavens and was the technique of the craftsman god. It was said that this forging technique could forge a puppet or battle doll. Once it was completed, it was equivalent to a living creature. Qiu Ming had even looked up some particularly terrifying things in the ancient palace. It was said that a puppet that was qualified to be forged with the uncanny workmanship had extremely powerful combat strength. A puppet of the divine king? It was not qualified to be forged at all. Then, the item that was auctioned before was likely a legendary item. This item was too precious. Even if it was a puppet at the half-step almighty level, it was enough for Qiu Ming to buy back at a high price. When Qiu Ming learned that the auction was suspected of auctioning such a puppet, he immediately rushed over. In fact, he had only bought the universe stone in passing. As for materials, he was not lacking at all. He had already gathered more than half of the supreme materials needed for him to become an almighty in the future. In the future, Qiu Ming would become a peak overlord in the universe. He had already begun preparing the materials for his future weapon a long time ago. Could that puppet be? Many people paled. Could it be that it was not as simple as it seemed? King Kongpa had previously thought that Su Yan had suffered a loss. Now, Su Yan must have picked up a bargain. Damn, this King Qiu Ming. The group of treasure appraisers from the Grand Avenue auction house all had dark expressions as they cursed. They had made a mistake. That puppet was definitely a dusty treasure. However, this B***starred Qiu Ming had pointed it out directly. Wasn't that saying that they were incompetent? When Qiu Ming saw that many eyes were focused on Su Yan's private room, Qiu Ming smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist, I wonder if you can let me take a look at it? Take a look at 100 drops of universe liquid. Su Yan's loud voice silenced the entire place. Damn, he was too black-hearted. He had to pay 100 drops of universe liquid just to take a look? The smile on Chiu Ming's face disappeared. His tone was still calm as he said, "Fellow Taoist, your request is a bit too much. If that puppet has a lost forging technique, I can buy it at a high price." Su Yan sneered. Could Chiu Ming afford an item that even the prehistoric Big Brother was serious about? He could not afford it even if he pawned his underwear. That puppet is said to be damaged. Without the forging technique, it can't be repaired. Chiu Ming spoke again with an anxious look. Su Yan looked at the prehistoric Big Brother. The prehistoric Big Brother rarely spoke. It's hard to find. Su Yan's body trembled as he said to Chiu Ming in a deep voice, "It's said that you, Chiu Ming, have grasped the Shocking Zone scroll. I don't know if I can borrow it to take a look. Anyway, it hasn't evolved to the level of a supreme treasure. I'll give you 50 kilograms of chaos treasure material. If you let me take a look, maybe my big brother can forge it into a supreme treasure with his supreme ability." Roar, 018, Alexander. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 959. The entire Great Path auction house was filled with experts from all walks of life. There were also important figures from various clans who were watching all of this in their private rooms. How special was this puppet? Many people's expressions were abnormal. Some people's faces were even twitching slightly. Where did this weirdo come from? Was he trying to annoy Chiu Ming to death? Moreover, this clan's domain-shaking painting scroll was now in the hands of Chiu Ming. With this item in hand, even a mighty figure would not be able to easily suppress Chiu Ming. The domain-shaking painting scroll was a great path sacred weapon passed down from generation to generation in the Life Forbidden Zone. It was also a top-level great path sacred weapon that was infinitely close to the level of a supreme treasure. But what did Su Yan say? He took it out for observation and gave Chiu Ming 50 kilograms of chaos-treasured material as an observation fee. The value was very high. But to Chiu Ming, wasn't it like he was sending a beggar away? Chiu Ming's face instantly darkened. The other party was making fun of him. I wonder what level of treasure this puppet is? Chiu Ming repeatedly said that he wanted to see the puppet's true appearance. It seems that this puppet is really extraordinary. I feel that the mysterious person in the private room has an important background. He didn't even give face to Chiu Ming. Today I've really learned something new. There are so many experts in the auction house who could not see the mystery of the human-shaped puppet. Only he could. This is enough to explain one thing. Perhaps this person also came from the Life Forbidden Zone? There were also people who were confused. They still remembered the puppet that had been auctioned previously. After all, it had led to a shocking gamble. But when the puppet was being auctioned, they had observed it many times. They really could not see what kind of secrets the puppet was hiding. Could it be that this puppet was really an extremely unique treasure? Or could it be that the puppet's forging process was really that terrifying? It was so valuable that even Chiu Ming paid special attention to it. Despicable Great Path Auction House. Despicable Great Path Auction House. As for the original owner of the puppet, he was now filled with regret. Although he didn't know how valuable the humanoid puppet was, or how special it was a huge loss. It was too late to say anything now. Su Yan had already won the bid for the humanoid puppet. This was a treasure that originally belonged to him. It was fine if he didn't know, but now that he knew, he wanted to vomit blood. Brother Chiu Ming. All of a sudden, Han Weiran walked out. Her previous attitude was completely different from before. Her demeanor was meek and gentle. She was born with a cold and elegant demeanor. Now that she had a gentle and charming face, she attracted the passionate gazes of many men. Han Weiran looked at Chiu Ming with adoring eyes. Her charming eyes were like silk as she said in a sweet voice, "Big brother Qiuming, don't be anxious. The human-shaped puppet will only belong to him for 10 days. After 10 days, it will belong to me. At that time, Big brother Qiuming can just take it away." When Qiuming, who was in a bad mood, heard Han Weiran's words, he was a little surprised. It was obvious that he didn't know about the bet. "I will tell Big brother Qiuming about this later. Big brother Qiuming, come with me first." Han Weiran pulled Qiuming's hand, which caused the pearls of various clans to be secretly jealous. After all, Qiuming was an absolute king. There were quite a number of proud ladies who admired him. At the same time, Han Weiran's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. She shouted at Su Yan's private room, "Take good care of my item. After 10 days, I hope you can deliver it to me in perfect condition. If there is even a trace of damage, I won't let you off." After speaking, Han Weiran pulled Qiuming into the private room. "Little brother, your tone is really big. If there is even a word missing from my heavenly scripture, don't blame me for taking care of you." Su Yan's voice also floated over, causing Han Weiran, who had half a foot in the private room, to tremble with anger. She made up her mind to wait until the great Tao battle platform started before she cut Su Yan into 8 pieces. "Kiki, Qiuming is Qiuming. Han Weiran is the most outstanding noble lady of the Han family." Zhu Yongjia was amazed and glanced at Bamboo Moon with a playful expression. "He took out the cosmic liquid just like that. This Qiuming is really rich. Some people are really throwing away a watermelon for sesame seeds." The experts of the Sky Bamboo branch all knew that Qiuming regarded Bamboo Moon with special regard, especially in the past few years when Bamboo Moon was in the family. Qiuming secretly came to the Sky Bamboo branch several times just to meet with Bamboo Moon. However, Bamboo Moon closed the door and refused to see any guests, which made some of the elders of the Sky Bamboo branch unhappy. Although they knew that Qiuming had other plans, if Bamboo Moon could improve her relationship with Qiuming, their Sky Bamboo branch would tie Qiuming to their worship. Unfortunately, he didn't care about Bamboo Moon at all and was even dissatisfied with her. This made the experts of the Sky Bamboo branch feel helpless. Moreover, Han Weiran of the Han family, the first noble lady of the Han family, had a close relationship with Qiuming. If the Sky Bamboo branch interfered, it would also anger the entire Han family. Therefore, the Sky Bamboo branch simply didn't care about this. "Zhu Yongjia, no one will take you for a mute if you don't speak." Bamboo Moon's tone was somewhat cold. "Am I not speaking the truth?" Zhu Yongjia snorted. Han Weiran wasn't this strong before. Qiuming must have given her some resources. "That cosmic mother liquid is too precious. Our Sky Bamboo branch doesn't have much of it, and you, Bamboo Moon, can forget about getting a single drop of cosmic mother liquid." Zhu Yongjia's tone was very heavy. There were many experts in the Sky Bamboo branch, and the small amount of cosmic mother liquid in the clan had long been reserved by geniuses like Zhu Yongjia. Once they stepped into the Divine King's domain, it would be time to use this worldly wonder. Bamboo Moon sneered. Cosmic mother liquid. She still remembered that Su Yan had taken out bottles of cosmic mother liquid in the past. However, this guy didn't even know what cosmic mother liquid was. It was also because of the cosmic mother liquid that Su Yan had taken out that allowed Bamboo Moon to accumulate an extremely strong foundation in the divine realm, which allowed her to perfect her previous flaws. Otherwise, when she returned to the Sky Bamboo branch, her family's old ancestor wouldn't have paid so much attention to her. It was also because of this that she was able to step into the peak of the heavenly god realm at an extremely fast speed. Now that she had obtained the Star Moon fruit, Bamboo Moon felt even more anxious about entering the Divine King's domain. "What are you laughing at?" Zhu Yongjiao was angry. Bamboo Moon's clothes fluttered, and her snow-white skin was hazy under the moonlight. She was beautiful and holy, and her sparkling black hair fell to her waist, exuding a kind of astonishing beauty. Bamboo Moon's indifference made Zhu Yongjia even angrier. On the other hand, in Han Weiran's private room, Chiu Ming was somewhat suspicious of the information that Hong Kong kept saying. The person in the private room was Su Yan? However, when he recalled this person called Su Yan, Chiu Ming really believed it. Looking at the vast cultivation world, who would dare to speak to him like this? Nephew, are you sure that thing is extraordinary? The Han family's old grandmaster asked in a grave tone. Yes. Chiu Ming nodded and said, it's very likely that it's an extremely powerful forging technique that has been lost in history. Even the humanoid puppet itself should be powerful enough. Hateful, that little bastard tricked me. The Han family's old grandmaster carefully thought back, and his expression changed again and again. He angrily said, at that time I said that I wanted to buy the puppet at a high price, but in the end this kid said that he spent money to buy it and bet my Han family's Heavenly Force chapter. I was tricked. Elder, don't panic. Han Weiran chuckled and said, now that Big Brother Chiu Ming is here, I don't care who he is. With Big Brother Chiu Ming here, don't tell me that I can't deal with him. Not bad, not bad. Ha ha ha, if it's really Su Yan, then his end has really come. The Han family's old grandmaster laughed heartily. These words were not wrong. And, for the next few days, Weiran, follow me and go into seclusion for a few days. Chiu Ming also nodded. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he would think of a way to increase Han Weiran's strength. If he could smoothly take down Su Yan, then whether it was the humanoid puppet or the Heavenly Force chapter, they would all be in his pocket. Thank you, Big Brother Chiu Ming. Han Weiran was pleasantly surprised. Her red dress made her look beautiful and enchanting. Her eyes rippled with waves of joy. I hope that thing really won't disappoint me. Chiu Ming still could not forget about it. The uncanny craftsmanship technique was the strongest inheritance at the pinnacle of the forging technique. Even the puppet could very well be a rare treasure of the Almighty series. In short, no matter what, Chiu Ming was determined to get this thing. If the other party was Su Yan, then it would be even more perfect. Nephew, don't be careless. The Han family's old grandmaster reminded him worriedly, Su Yan is also very strange. Although we can't be sure whether it's him or not, we still can't be careless. I say, Elder. Han Weiran frowned unhappily and said, Big Brother Chiu Ming has already made his move. What is Su Yan even? My Big Brother Chiu Ming can crush him with a single finger. He's not a threat at all. What are you still worried about? Moreover, Su Yan has just stepped into the heavenly god realm. There's a difference of 8 small realms between him and me. I can suppress Su Yan with my divine power alone. Weiran, Chiu Ming said in a deep voice, how can you speak to the elder like that? I don't care about Su Yan, but it's never wrong to be careful. I'll personally help you improve your strength these few days. You have to cultivate seriously too. Don't be careless. I know. Han Weiran was as docile as a little lamb. She listened to Chiu Ming's words. Ha ha ha, Chiu Ming, I'm relieved that you're so considerate. All right, you can leave now. I have to make a trip back to the family. The Han family's old grandmaster nodded in satisfaction. Take care, Elder. Chiu Ming watched him leave. Then, he looked at Su Yan's private room. He wanted to use his heaven's eye to take a look, but after thinking about it, he shook his head. After all, this was the Grand Avenue auction house. Although his identity was special, he could not break the rules as he wished. The auction held by the Grand Avenue auction house ended just like that. The news spread all over the place, causing a series of commotion in the city of the Grand Avenue. After all, the battle in 10 days was too shocking. Even Chiu Ming was involved. How could all the clans not be moved? Once the battle on the Grand Avenue battle stage started, it would attract all the powerhouses to come and watch. At the same time, all the shops in the city of the Grand Avenue were in an uproar. Large groups of cultivators rushed out of the auction house, looking for the human-shaped puppet with red eyes. Most importantly, They were looking for the human-shaped puppet that they could merge with. News kept leaking out, causing quite a commotion. The appraisers of the Grand Avenue auction house were wrong? This incident had a huge impact. If the appraisers of an auction house couldn't recognize the real deal, the reputation of the auction house would fall. However, the Grand Avenue auction house was still a huge organization. They wouldn't lose their reputation because of a mistake like this. However, this incident caused the appraisers of the auction house to stare at it. Actually, they took advantage of the time when Su Yen was collecting the treasures to gather together and study the human-shaped puppet crazily. However, no matter how much they studied, they couldn't find out any other special value of the human-shaped puppet. This made them smile bitterly. What the F***ck was this? With their knowledge, they had seen all kinds of treasures. However, they couldn't figure out what was so special about the puppet. There was even a bad-tempered appraiser who said, "I think we should ask him to explain clearly. What kind of treasure is this puppet?" And Xiao Ming, that son of AB*TC. He just had to point out the puppet. "He is looking for trouble. I had something to do in the morning, so I went out to do some work. I only came back at noon." Chapter 960. These master appraisers were just saying it out of their mouth. Divine King Kong Bo had passed down a message earlier, warning them not to act recklessly. The other party's background was very powerful, and he had a big brother following him. With a mighty figure following him, the appraisers could only smile bitterly. They did not dare to touch the item. They even felt that Su Yen had bought the puppet because of the mighty figure's approval. The item had already been bid for. It was impossible to go back on his word now. It's not just one item. On the way to collect the treasures, Su Yen heard the discussions of the cultivators who had left. He covered his mouth and laughed. There were a total of 2 treasures. The other was the cosmic stone. If not for the fact that the cosmic stone had been contaminated, Su Yen would not have bid for it so easily. In short, the items that the prehistoric Big Brother valued were definitely not ordinary. The humanoid puppet that was hard to find in the world and the Qianquan stone that hid the universe made Su Yen look forward to seeing what was so extraordinary about them. Just like that, Su Yen and Big Brother Prehistoric went to the important area where they could collect the treasures. The important items of the auction could only be collected after the auction ended. This place was filled with experts. Occasionally, the aura of a half-step mighty figure would be released to prevent any accidents. If this batch of treasures was lost, the entire Dao Hall would be in trouble. After all, 99% of the auction items did not belong to the Great Dao Auction House. Their auction house would take a commission from the transaction. Of course, there had been many cases of the auction being robbed. The most terrifying thing that had happened was that a mighty figure with a withered lifespan had robbed an auction of a terrifying scale. That incident was recorded by all the major family clans. It was said that a large ancient city in the Chaos Ruins had collapsed. The number of people who had died was immeasurable. It could be said that the people were in a terrible situation. Although this Almighty with a withered lifespan had succeeded, he did not live for more than a year before he was killed by the combined forces of the various major forces. The longer one lived, the more one feared death. This was especially true for mighty figures. If they did something crazy before they died, the consequences would be unbearable. For generations, the Taoist Temple would send experts to guard every grand event held by the Great Path Auction House in order to prevent any major changes from happening. At this moment, Su Yen and the prehistoric Big Brother arrived at the secret room where the treasure exchange took place. "Greetings, Senior." Although these grandmasters were infuriated, they didn't dare to show any disrespect to this mysterious expert. They couldn't afford to offend him. All of them respectfully went forward to greet him. "Don't mention it, fellow Taoists," Su Yen said with a smile. "These are the 3 items you've purchased. The Qianquan stone, the pill of resurrection, and the humanoid puppet. These 3 items were worth more than 50,000 kilograms of primal chaos treasured materials. They were presented before Su Yen, awaiting his inspection. Su Yen did a quick check and paid the money. Of course, there was still a batch of primordial materials that Su Yen had yet to collect. He used the yin-yang grass to pay for it. Of course you can use yin-yang grass. Do you have any extra yin-yang grass on you? Our auction house can buy all of them for 3,000 kilograms of primal chaos treasured materials. The many founding members of the Grand Avenue auction house were naturally very happy. They even asked Su Yen if he had any extra yin-yang grass. Their auction house could buy them all. No, that's all. Su Yan's head was like a rattledrum. The founding members of the Grand Avenue auction house could only stare at him. They didn't know what to do with Su Yen and didn't dare to ask any more questions. During the exchange, King Kampa smiled at Su Yen and said, "Fellow Taoist, if you're free, you can visit the Tao Hall. Our Tao Hall is currently recruiting disciples. With your talent, you're qualified to become a disciple of the Tao Hall." "Is the Tao Hall inviting me to study under a master?" Su Yen was surprised. "I wouldn't dare." King Kongpa laughed and said, "Although our Tao Hall can't compare to the individual teachings of a mighty figure, the Tao Hall still includes geniuses from various races. We even have a collection of ancient scriptures from various eras, which can be of great help to cultivation. If you're interested, you can enter the Tao Hall to read." "Is the Tao Hall so generous as to teach for free?" Su Yen asked curiously. "Haha, of course there are certain conditions." King Kongpa smiled and said, "Take me for example. When I cultivate to the Divine King realm, I have to serve the Tao Hall for a period of time. But ever since I joined, I've never left the Tao Hall. The Tao Hall's environment isn't inferior to that of the peak races. In fact, some of them are even better. In short, the Tao Hall's power was extremely mysterious. Even King Kongpa, who had joined the Tao Hall for thousands of years, had never seen who the Tao Hall master was. Generally speaking, the Tao Hall would only appear at the end of the Universal Era, when the Chaos Ruins were contending for supremacy. There's no hurry. When I'm done with the bet, I'll definitely pay the Tao Hall a visit when I have time." Su Yen smiled and said, "Although you have a bet with the Han family, it doesn't matter whether you go or not. It's good to let the Han family worry." King Kongpa replied. "Why, King Kongpa, are you afraid that I'll lose?" Su Yen laughed. "What are you talking about, my friend?" Divine King Kongbo hurriedly said, "The main thing is that the stakes are a little too high. The Heavenly Force chapter is the lifeblood of the Han family. Now that Xiao Ming is involved, I'm afraid that it might lead to unnecessary trouble. Fellow Taoist, you have to think carefully about whether you want to attract trouble for no reason." "Trouble?" Su Yen smiled mysteriously. He came to the great Tao city to cause trouble. With his prehistoric big brother by his side, he didn't mind causing trouble. Seeing Su Yan's expression, King Kongpa's expression turned solemn. The other party was not afraid of trouble, nor was he afraid of Xiao Ming. His background was really scary, which meant that he had a lot of confidence. Finally, King Kongpa whispered, "My friend, what kind of treasure is this human-shaped puppet?" "A group of treasure appraisers from our auction house have just appraised a few more items, but they couldn't find anything special about it. I'm really afraid that this group of old guys will be upset." Hearing that, Su Yen said, "Actually, there's nothing special about it. The Han family bid mainly because they saw the craftsmanship of the puppet. If they can decipher the craftsmanship on the puppet, it's equivalent to mastering an extremely powerful craftsmanship. This craftsmanship is the most valuable, and it's a secret craftsmanship that specializes in crafting puppets. It's worth a lot." Su Yen was full of nonsense, and the treasure appraisers who were eavesdropping felt that it was very likely. No wonder they couldn't tell. The problem was with the craftsmanship. This wasn't something they trespassed into. Su Yen spouted some nonsense to make the appraisers feel a lot better. Divine King Kong Bo also invited Su Yen again and again, insisting that he sit down in the Tao Palace. Of course. If there's a chance, I'll definitely go back to the Taoist temple. Su Yen smiled and said, King Kongpa, I hope that for the bet in 10 days, you can help me seriously examine the Tianshi chapter. If not, the Han family will come up with a fake one to fool me. It seems that my friend is very confident. You don't have to worry about the bet. The Han family isn't so bold as to deceive the Taoist temple. The Tianshi chapter will definitely be authentic. Of course, the Han family won't take out all of it. Divine King Kong Bo said, this inheritance is extremely precious. I'm guessing that they will only take out a portion of it. However, even if it's only a portion, it's still a priceless inheritance. It's not for sale. Fellow Taoist, you have to be prepared. Su Yen naturally didn't want the Han family to give up all of their inheritance. However, if he could get a part of it, Su Yen was confident that he would be able to advance to the 7th rank. This was the most important thing. I understand. King Kongpa, you don't have to send me off. I'll take my leave first. Su Yen prepared to find a place to study the mysteries of the 2 items. There were still 10 days before the bet, so he had to prepare. My friend, please wait a moment. King Kongpa hurried after him and said, Miss Bamboo Moon, the star moon fruit you bought earlier, is waiting in the lounge of the Grand Avenue auction house. Do you want to go take a look? Bamboo Moon. Su Yen clenched his fists. His emotions surged. He nodded at King Kongpa and said, All right, I'll have to trouble King Kongpa to take me there. It's just a small matter. There's nothing to worry about. King Kongpa was curious about the relationship between Su Yen and Bamboo Moon. When King Kongpa saw this fairy named Bamboo Moon, he was also stunned. He never expected that the sky bamboo branch would produce such a stunning beauty. Then King Kongpa said, By the way, my friend, there's a divine king of the sky bamboo branch beside Miss Bamboo Moon. The two seem to have a subtle relationship. You should pay more attention. King Kongpa was very thoughtful. Su Yan's impression of him improved greatly. He said, King Kongpa, are you usually only at the Grand Avenue auction house? That's not the case. King Kongpa said proudly, the Tao Church has entrusted me with important tasks. I'm in charge of many affairs in the Grand Avenue city. I also have many ordinary matters to attend to. It's been a long time since I've returned to the Tao Church. King Kongpa, you were supposed to be the chief steward of the Tao Church. Su Yen laughed mockingly. You flatter me, you flatter me. King Kongpa also smiled proudly. The Tao Church was a powerful force. Anyone who could become the chief steward of the Tao Church's outer sect was definitely someone with real power. It was no wonder that King Kongpa dared to reprimand Han Weiran in the auction house. Su Yen estimated that King Kongpa's combat strength should be at the peak of the Divine King's level. Generally speaking, if one cultivated to such a level, one would have no hope of becoming a mighty figure without a fortuitous encounter. At the same time, in the lounge of the Grand Avenue auction house, there was also a VIP lounge. The decor was exceptionally luxurious. Among them was a silver-haired old woman. She seemed to be a little impatient from waiting. She glanced at Bamboo Moon and said slowly, Bamboo Moon, that friend of yours is too arrogant. We've waited for so long, but he still hasn't appeared. How long is he going to make us wait? Haha, Elder. Zhu Yongjia said with a gloomy voice. That man spent more than 5,000 kilograms of primal chaos treasured materials to buy the star moon fruit and gave it to Zhu Yu. For such a wealthy man, spending money to wait for a while is nothing. That's true. After all, he spent money. The silver-haired old woman sneered. Zhu Yu's expression changed on the spot. What did they take her for? Their voices were sinister. Elder, if you're impatient from waiting, you can just leave. Zhu Yu stood up and stared at them with her starry eyes. No one told you to wait here. Haha, this matter will affect the reputation of our tribe. Don't let others say that our tribe's pearl is frivolous. The silver-haired old woman sneered. It's just 5,000 kilograms of chaos material. Our tribe doesn't lack that much. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for you to get married. I want to be like Elder and never get married. That would be free. Bamboo Moon suddenly sneered. This caused the silver-haired old woman's expression to turn ugly. When she was young, she had many suitors. However, she was used to having high standards and looked down on ordinary young talent. In the end, she was left behind. The older she got, the less people wanted her. Now, she didn't even have a blood descendant. This had always been a pain in Zhu Yincai's heart. She never expected that Bamboo Moon would directly point it out. This angered Zhu Yincai. Just as she was about to angrily rebuke, the door to the private room was pushed open. Bamboo Moon's lily-white hands were tightly clenched. Her sparkling eyes landed on the white-clothed man who walked in. "Io, the main character is here." Zhu Yongjia began to examine Su Yan. He wanted to know what kind of superhuman abilities this person had that even Qiu Ming dared to ridicule. "Little brat, you're really slow." Zhu Yincai used an unfriendly gaze to examine Su Yan. The Divine King's aura automatically leaked out. Originally, Zhu Yincai was waiting for Su Yan to come and greet him. She wanted to give Su Yan a show of strength. She might even be able to ask about Su Yan's identity. Who knew that Su Yan treated them like air? He directly took out an armchair from the lounge and placed it on the ground. He said to the prehistoric old man, "Big brother, sit."